boarding for of governors who have worked very hard in organizing this conference. I'm looking forward to having this conference established into a recurring event for years to come. Lastly, I sincerely hope that you will enjoy the seminar, and thank you for your visit to Universitas Trilogi. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much to Dr. Anis Lastiati. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to listen to the keynote speech delivered by the Executive Director, Southeast Asia Voting Group, the World Bank, Dr. M.Si Saputra. Let us welcome Dr. M.Si Saputra to deliver his keynote speech. But before that, please allow me to read his CV first, as you can see on the screen. Mr. M.Si Saputra serves as the Executive Director of the Office Executive Director of the World Bank Group of the Southeast Asia, which represents Brunei Darussalam, Fiji, Indonesia, Laos PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, Nepal, Singapore, Thailand, Tonga, and Vietnam since November 2022. Prior to this position, Mr. Saputra served as the Assistant Minister for Macroeconomy and International Finance of the Ministry of Finance of the Government of Indonesia since October 5, 2021. He started his career with the Ministry of Finance of Indonesia in 1995 and has served the ministry in various capacities, including Director of the Center for Policy Analysis and Harmonization and Chief of Staff of the Minister of Finance in 2017, Head of Business Process Division, Organization and Business Process Bureau 2017, Chief Change Management Officer of the Central Transformation Office in 2014, and Deputy Chief of Staff of the Ministry of Finance in 2012, and the Directorate General of Customs as Head of Custom Patrol Office in 2011. He has extensive experience on the transformation and reform program of the Ministry of Finance. In addition to his role at the ministry, he also has been appointed as Indonesia G20 Finance Deputy, started from 2021 until present, ex officio Governor of International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD, from 2021 until present, ex officio Director for Constituency 11 of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB, from 2021 to June 2022. Head of Secretariat of National Committee for Islamic Economic and Finance, or KNEKS, from 2021 until present. He has a diploma degree in Customs and Excise from State College of Accountancy in 1995, BS in Economics from the University of Indonesia in 1999, and MA in Public Finance from the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies 2003, and a PhD in Economics from Nagoya University in 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, please let Dr. M.Si Saputra for his keynote speech from the screen.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning from Washington, D.C. Peace be upon us all. Pramono Hari Adi, Chancellor of Trilogi University. His Excellency Bapak Muhammad Mahsun, Chairman of the Association of Public Sector Accounting Educators. Her Excellency Ibu Dian Agustia, Chair of the Indonesian Accountant Associations. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Let us give thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us the gift of health and opportunity so that we can gather and discuss at the 2nd International and the 5th National Conference on Accounting and Fraud Auditing at Trilogi University, Jakarta. On this occasion, I would like to express my gratitude to the Chancellor of Trilogi University, Jakarta, Bapak Professor Dr. Pramono Hari Adi, M.Si, along with his staff and the conference organizing committee, for giving me the opportunity to contribute ideas and views to the annual conference with the theme of environmental, social, and governance, creating sustainable value in global business. This theme is very timely and relevant to be discussed in the public occasion, considering the current global conditions and require policy breakthrough and to strengthen commitment to achieve balanced, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable global growth. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as Bapak Ibu have observed, global economic activity is currently weakening amid the impact of tight monetary policy, restrictive financial conditions, and weak global trade growth. Based on the World Bank report published in January 2024, global growth is expected to slow to 2.4% in 2024, reflecting the delay and continued impact of tight monetary policy in an effort to control high inflation and credit restrictions and sluggish global trade and investment conditions. Global growth is projected to increase to 2.7% in 2025, in line with decreasing inflation and interest rates, as well as increasing international trading activity. Global economic growth is overshadowed by downside risks that continue to dominate. The recent conflict in the Middle East, following the still unfinished war in Ukraine, has sharply increased geopolitical risks. Escalating conflict could cause significant disruption to energy markets and soaring energy prices, with major impacts on other commodities and broader global economic activity. The Middle East conflict also continues to spread with disruption to trade security in the Red Sea. Meanwhile, drought disruption in Panama has forced the Panama Canal authorities to reduce ships crossing from 38 to 24 ships per day. Trade through the Red Sea and the Panama Canal is a barometer of the world trade. Disruptions in both will have a real impact on transportation costs and ultimately global inflation. The impact of climate change is also increasingly evident with the occurrence of floods and droughts in various countries. This condition has caused crop failures and disrupted global food and nutrition supplies. To overcome these risks, international cooperation needs to be strengthened to facilitate trade flows, addressing climate change, encourage the energy transition, and reduce food insecurity. Central banks in developing countries need to ensure that inflation expectations are maintained and financial system remain resilient, especially in the context of higher global interest rate for a longer period. Fiscal sustainability needs to be maintained amid limited fiscal space and increasing debt, especially in the poorest countries. Commodity price instability also needs to be addressed with a strong policy framework. To encourage long-term growth that is resilient and sustainable, structural reforms are needed to accelerate investment, increase productivity, and close the gender gap. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, against the backdrop of global developments and their risks, it is understandable that sustainability challenges are becoming increasingly important, considering the limited availability of natural resources while demand continues to increase. Economic inequality is growing, and the impact of climate change is increasingly evident. Public and private entities are seeking to continue to strengthen a long-term view in managing environmental, social, and governance risks, In this case, the application of economic, social, and governance (ESG) principles is a necessity. ESG in an organizational strategy that adapts good environmental, social, and organizational governance practices to improve business sustainability. ESG has become one of the most important considerations for financial institutions and banks, including various regional and multilateral development banks, including the Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, World Bank, and others. At the World Bank, a similar ESG framework has been implemented since October 1st, 2018, namely the Environmental and Social Framework, ESF. This framework, among other things, consists of sustainable development vision and guidelines for overcoming risks and impacts of disadvantage of vulnerable individuals or groups. The World Bank ESF support environmentally friendly, resilient, and inclusive development by strengthening protection for people and the environmental and making important progress in areas such as employment, inclusion and non-discrimination, gender, climate change, biodiversity, public health and safety, and engagement stakeholders. This approach uses a risk-based and proportional approach that applies increased oversight and resources to complex projects and allows greater responsiveness to change project circumstances through adaptive risk management and stakeholder engagement. This framework promotes integrated environmental and social risk management. The World Bank ESF emphasizes strengthening national environmental and social management system and institutions, as well as supporting capacity building of borrowers. This encourages increased transparency and stakeholder engagement through timely disclosure of information, meaningful and ongoing consultation throughout the project life cycle, and a responsive complaint mechanism to facilitate resolution of concerns and complaints of projects affected parties. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as the world grapples with environmental and social challenges such as climate change, social inequality, and governance failures, the importance of ESG consideration is becoming increasingly apparent in managing sustainable value. In this case, ESG plays an important role, including: first, ESG performs a risk management role. ESG risks are significant and diverse, ranging from physical risks such as natural disasters related to climate change to transition risk originating from legal and policy risks due to greenhouse emissions and governance or social issues such as human rights violations. By integrating ESG considerations into their risk management frameworks, public and private entities can better anticipate and manage these risks, which can have a positive impact on their financial performance. One complete example is the energy transition process toward net zero emission. In this case, the government can assess and manage risks related to stranded assets due to the early retirement of coal-fired power plants, the impact on the workforce and surrounding communities, as well as the dealing of contractual agreements due to accelerated contract completion. Second, ESG is able to maintain reputation. ESG is increasingly important for borrowers, investors, and other stakeholders in global business. An entity that shows a strong commitment to sustainability and social responsibility will be more attractive and easier to access funding from investors. For example, countries that invest in climate change adaptation and mitigation projects and promote gender equality will receive financial support from international financial institutions. The World Bank, for example, allocates around 45% of its total annual financing to address the impacts of climate change and 91% of its operations to close the gender gap in client countries. Third, ESG drives regulatory adjustments. Regulators around the world are increasingly focusing on ESG issues and requiring public and private entities to integrate these considerations into their business practices. For example, the European Union has introduced regulations such as the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulations, SFDR, and the taxonomy regulation, which require financial institutions to disclose ESG-related information and align their investment with environmental goals. On the other hand, the European Union also applies ESG standards for products that will be exported to the region. Countries that cannot meet the standards do not get market access in the region. Fourth, ESG drive innovation. Public and private entities that prioritize ESG are more likely to drive innovation and develop new products and services that address environmental and social challenges. For example, financial institutions or governments that issue green bonds or sustainable investment products can help finance renewable energy projects or other green initiatives, potentially providing better interest rates. The growth of the green bond market has been impressive and will likely continue to dominate. Based on the S&P report, environmentally friendly bond issuance in the first half of 2023 reached $310 billion and has controlled 59% of the environmentally friendly, social, sustainable, and sustainability-linked bond market in 2023 so far. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, understanding the importance of ESG in achieving long-term success is critical. However, what is even more important is how to realize ESG and the strategy for implementing it. There are at least 3 considerations that need to be taken into account. First, switch from expenses to investment. Historically, ESG has been viewed as a cost center designed to address regulatory compliance rather than a source of value. For ESG to respond to the increasing needs for new business paradigms, public and private entities must begin to view it as an investment with measurable strategic and financial returns. For example, the global food production industry. Crop farming and livestock are 2 practices that have a huge impact on the environment, accounting for 26% of global greenhouse gas emissions, 70% of global freshwater withdrawals, and 50% of the planet's habitable land use. By implementing the smart agriculture system, for example, methane production will be reduced, water use will be more efficient, and production results will be greater. Second, focus on long-term value creation. The entities that succeed in the future will be those that recognize the performance of ESG and lay the foundation for resilient value creations in this new reality. When an entity successfully takes these steps and the market accepts them, they will be in position to take full advantage of the opportunities created by ESG. Let's look again at the example of food production. To create lasting value, producers must be able to measure value beyond just the food harvested, but also the value of carbon, biodiversity, and social impacts directly caused by sustainable nature of the business. The market will be forced to pay attention to these evidence points and provide signals to guide producers' future ESG strategies. Food production accounts for nearly 10% of the global economy, so the opportunities are enormous for those focused on long-term value creation rather than incremental profits. Third, collaborate at scale across the value chain. To achieve scale to address the world's most complex challenges, public and private entities must take an ecosystem approach that aligns incentives across the value chain. Food production is a good example. To move from agricultural new raw materials to product stock on supermarket shelves, food must move through the hands of producers, processors, distributors, and retailers. Each player has unique ESG challenges, and each must be able to monetize initiatives related to solving those challenges. If we consider the fact that 27% of the world's total employment is in the agriculture sector, it becomes clear that reaching just a few thousand farmers is not enough to have a real impact. By taking an ecosystem approach, the world food system can be transformed into one that restores nature and reduces adverse impact on society while generating new sources of income. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as individuals and academics, We can also play an important role in encouraging ESG considerations by supporting public and private entities that prioritize sustainability and social responsibility. In this case, universities and academics need to pay attention to ESG consideration for several reasons, including, first, relevance to real-world challenges. ESG issues are at the forefront of many of the major challenges facing society, such as climate change, inequality, and ethical business practices. Higher education must reflect and respond to these challenges and equip students with knowledge and skills to overcome these challenges. Second, interdisciplinary nature. ESG covers a wide range of disciplines, from economics and finance to sociology and environmental science, making it a relevant subject of study for many academic fields. Third, career opportunities. An ESG consideration become increasingly important in the business and government. There will be an increasing demand for professionals with knowledge and skill in this area. Higher education can help prepare students for these careers. Fourth, responsible citizenship. Higher education institutions have a responsibility to promote responsible citizenship and equip students with the knowledge and skills to make informed decisions in their personal and professional lives. Understanding ESG is critical in this regard. And last point, investment opportunities. ESG considerations are becoming increasingly important for investors and financial institutions, and understanding ESG can provide new investment opportunities for academic institutions and their institutional endowments. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, the global market is responsibly oriented towards ESG, and no entity is immune to this change. As stakeholders, we have the opportunity to contribute to changing the direction of our world. Companies, educators, and governments must prioritize sustainability and environmental, social, and governance literacy to prepare the next generation of workforce. With capacity and expertise, we have a responsibility for the sustainability of our generation. As Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our main event. This main event will be led by a moderator, but before that, please allow me to read our moderator's CV for today, as you can see on the screen. Our moderator today is Dr. Anis. Dr. Anis obtains her doctoral degree in accounting from Universitas Indonesia. She holds a master's degree on human resource management and a master's degree on educational studies from the University of Newcastle, Australia. She took her bachelor degree in accounting from Universitas Padjadjaran, Bandung. Dr. Anis is currently the Vice Rector for Learning and Student Affairs at Universitas Trilogi, Jakarta. She is also a lecturer at the accounting program Universitas Trilogi. Her areas of interest are corporate governance, management control systems, and behavioral accounting. Previously, Dr. Anis served as head of quality assurance and internal audit and had an experience as corporate senior accountant in IBM Indonesia. The result of Dr. Anis' researches and community services have been published in international and national index journals such as Scopus and Sinta, and conference proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, please give applause for our moderator today, Dr. Anis Lastiati.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, audience of this seminar, good afternoon. Let's start our main session this afternoon. Today's seminar will be delivered in two parts. The first section there will be two presenters. The first presenter will be Mr. Sebli Hassan Abdul Majid from Songkhla University, Thailand. And the second one is Professor Lim Weng Mak, Dean of Samway University, Malaysia. And then after 20 minutes question and answer session, we will continue the session into the second session. We will have Dr. Insinyur Mohamad Awaludin MBA, the President Commissioners of PT Pelni as the first speaker, and then ends with Professor Pawan Adhikara, Senior Lecturer from University of Essex, UK. At the very moment in Auditorium of Universitas Trilogi, there are more than 150% here audience, and we have 90, almost 100 audience online with Zoom. And this seminar is also live streamed through YouTube channels. So without no further ado, let's start the first part of the seminar by asking for Mr. Sebli Hassan Abdul Majid from Songkhla University, Thailand. Before his presentation, allow me to read his curriculum vitae. Mr. Sebli Hassan Abdul Majid is the foreign expert of the Faculty of Management Science, Prince of Songkhla University. His educational background is Master of Professional Communication from Western Sydney University, Australia, and his bachelor degree is on Human Sciences, specialized in Public Relations, International Islamic University, Malaysia. Among his long working experience are foreign expert and lecturers in Prince of Songkhla University, Hatay, Thailand, from 2023 to present. And Senior Director, Grade 52, Special Function Cooperative Institute of Malaysia in the Ministry of Entrepreneurial Development and Cooperative Malaysia. He obtains many awards. Some of them is represented Malaysia and the Institute of Public Relations Malaysia in the 4th Asian PR Excellence Award 2023 at Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam on the 2023, and won double victories for Malaysia. Without no further ado, allow me to invite Mr. Sebli Hassan Abdul Majid. Mr. Sebli.
Yes, Dr. Anis.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Sebli.
Hello, Dr. Anis. Can you hear me?
We cannot hear you, Mr. Sebli. I think you're still in mute.
No, not mute on my side, but mute on your side.
We still cannot hear you, Mr. Sebli.
Yeah, I think it's muted on their side because I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear Mr. Shapley on the call.
Yeah.
What was that, Bernice? Is there something wrong with Mr. Sebli audio?
There's nothing wrong with Mr. Shapley's audio. I don't think it's Mr. Shapley's problem because we can hear him quite well.
Okay. There's something wrong with people in the Zoom can hear Mr. Sebli. Can you try once again, Mr. Sebli?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello,
Mr.
everyone.
You can start your presentation. You have 20 to 25 minutes presentations.
Okay. First of all, Dr. Anis, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. And first and foremost, I would like to convey the message from the Dean of Faculty of Medical Sciences, Professor of University, Dr. Tirawat, where he sent his personal regards to the Rector of Trilogi University, Professor Dr. Pramono, Dr. Ati Hedawati, Dean of Faculty of Business, and to organizing committee. So that's a message from my dean. Okay, first and foremost, let me share my screen first. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Anis, Lasdiati, Ibu Vice Rector, and to my fellow presenter, Professor Lim Weng Mak from Sunbeam University, participants and students, Assalamualaikum, Sawadee-Kap, and good evening to everyone. My name is Shabli. I'm from Malaysia, but now I'm currently working as a foreign expert at the Prince of Auckland University at the Faculty of Medical Sciences. And to all of you in Trilogi University, in front of you is Shabli, or you call me Shab. I'm not a brother to Upin and Ipin, definitely not. And it is a famous icon in Indonesia, I believe that. To the angle of PR and communication, and it is based on my 21 experience in the working industry back in Malaysia and also in the ASEAN countries. Okay, let me start my presentation. Okay, the title of my presentation today is the strength of public relation or PR in sustaining strategic brand management. Okay. Next question, PR and branding. Which one came first? Is either PR or branding? How about branding and marketing? Right? And how about marketing and PR? You can see that previously they have like strategic communication, marketing communication, public relation, branding, there's a lot of it. But in the aspect of ESG, environment, social, and corporate governance, which one that is more focused on the ESG? Is either marketing, public relation, or branding? Personally, through my experience, I would say that it is all the same. That is through my experience, yeah. It's not from the books, not from any sources, but it's through my experience. Now let us go back to basics. Okay, the most important thing is, what is brand management? Brand management is responsible for managing, improving, strengthening and creating awareness of the reputation of an organization's brand, products, and services over time. However, for public relation, responsible for managing, strengthening, and increasing awareness of an organization, its brand and services in the eyes of the stakeholders and the public over time. Okay, who is brand strategist and who is PR professional? That is the most important question, because in corporate organization, we are, for example, like yesterday, one of the narasumber, Professor Dr. Ratna, I believe her name, she said that for the ESG publication, ESG compilation, it will be handled by many parties in the organization. Yes, I totally agree with it. I totally agree with her. Yes, okay. But at the end of the day, all the findings, all the research, all the materials will go to either the PR or the brand strategist in the organization in order to publish, in order to promote and disseminate information to the audience. Okay. A brand strategist is the one who knows a brand from the inside out and make clarity about a brand and its positioning through a campaign, brings valuable experience and expertise, and strengthen brand activation, focusing on to drive customer action. That is the so-called task of a brand strategist. However, for public relations or PR professional, a PR professional shape positive perception of an organization and its brand. For example, like ESG. Okay, some of the companies they are promoting the ESG or previously promoting CSR. Who are the one who promoting these programs and initiatives? I would say that a PR professional. And at the same time, in why to have a positive perception of the organization? Because it's to build, maintain, and strengthen mutual relationships with stakeholders, investors, and also publics. For example, in ESG and for ESG and CSR, the most it is focusing on targeting the investor. Okay, because if the organization is practicing fully utilizing its expertise in ESG, the more the investor would like to invest in that organization. Who are the one who connect between the investors and the organization is the PR professional. And the third one is plan and execute communication campaign, especially for CSR and ESG initiative. Now I'm only talking about ESG initiatives, okay? PR professional are the one who will try to plan and execute this kind of campaign. And at the same time, the most important thing is PR professional manage crisis and increase reputation through media relations. If, for example, there's something happen, for example, like when you are having an ESG initiative, you try to do your best in promoting the ESG initiative of your organization to the public, but the message doesn't come positive to the eye of the public. Then here come a PR professional to improve the reputation and to increase back the trust of the public towards the organization. And the next one is the PR professional mitigate crisis, manage reputation, and entertain negative media statements. Like I mentioned this now, if there is any negative message, the PR professional will try to handle the negative message and to make it positive so that the reputation of the organization is still at par. And the last one is the PR professional is they focus on cultural sensitivity and brand sentiment in community engagement. Okay, for example, like when you are conducting or you are handling or you are implementing a CSR or ESG initiative or programs, your target audience is number one is your internal staff, and second is the public or the community. That's where you must have a PR professional will take a good care of the sensitivity, cultural sensitivity towards your public. Who are your target audience? Okay, and the next one is what's about brand management? I would say it's very simple. A brand management, why it is important? Because a brand management creates the foundation of a brand. Okay, a brand management creates the foundation of a brand, for example, for an organization. This is the brand created by them, created in order to have a strong relationship with the stakeholders and the investor. Now, number two is to create a sense of brand awareness. To create awareness, because if you do not create awareness of your brand, there's no purpose of having a brand. Because the most important thing is to create awareness so that people know about your brand, people know about your services, and people know about your existing in this corporate world. And the next one is to ensure customer loyalty. Through brand awareness, you are going to create trust. When you create trust, you are able to ensure customer loyalty towards your organization, towards your brand, and towards your product and services. And brand management also creates an emotional connection between the brand and also the public and also the customer and the consumer. And finally, it will increase the company's profit. That is the most important part. At the end of the day, everything about a single dollar. Okay, what's about public relations? Okay, I would say that PR is important because the organization, it is the organization heart. Okay, for the public, stakeholders, and also the shareholders. And PR holds together a strong beneficial relationship with the public and the stakeholders through effective communication in creating, maintaining, and sustaining corporate image, identity, and brand over time. And there's rumors say that PR is not part of branding, and branding is not part of PR. Yes, through my experience, I've experienced talking with brand strategists where they say that we don't need PR in branding. where branding is nothing about PR. Branding can stand alone by itself. How about public relation? How about when there is a crisis? How about when you want to deal with the media? Who are there to help you in dealing with this matter? It's not the brand strategists, but it's all about public relation practitioners. That's the most important part, because a PR, I would say through my experience, brothers and sisters, mahasiswa semua, PR is part of branding, and branding is part of public relation at the same time. It's interrelated. It's not separable. So when you want to do branding, you must think about public relation. And when to do public relation, you must also think about branding, because you are carrying the brand name of the organization. Okay, the strength of PR in sustaining strategic brand management. I would say that PR manages, protects, and strengthens the organization brand name and reputation in the eye of the public through positive image via CSR and ESG programs, press conferences, press releases, sustainability report, ESG publication, etc. Like I mentioned just now, earlier in my presentation, like I agree with Professor Dr. Ratna, one of the narasumber yesterday, and PR practitioners, they are the one who play a vital role in creating awareness of an organization's ESG initiative and programs. Okay, they are the one who are going to create everything in order to suit the public, in order to suit the community that is around the organization. The next one is PR creates an organization brand's unique identity and communicate to its target audience. Okay. It can be like internal practices, and it can be also like external practices. The most important thing is for the PR professional is to target two audiences. Number one is internal audience, which is the staff of the organization. The staff itself must able to identify and to know to have a full knowledge of the ESG or CSR initiative or program of his or her organization, because they are going to be the walking advertisement of the organization, and they are going to tell to everyone, they are going to trumpet to everyone that my company, my organization is practicing ESG and is fully driven in order to ensure that ESG practices, programs, initiatives will be materialized. Number one, they are the walking advertisement of the organization. And number two is the public or the target audience, which is the external parties. And they are the one, especially the stakeholders, and also the investor relations, and also the investors. Okay, they are the one who are going to react to the ESG program and initiatives by the organizations. So it's a two-way communication between the organization, internal staff, and also external public. And the next one is PR build, maintain, and strengthen mutual relationships with stakeholders, investor, through investor relation, and the public. This is what I meant earlier in my presentation just now, where the investors are more concerned, are more feeling like they want to invest in that organization if the organization able to suit their needs and wants. Okay, if the organization are able to suit their needs and wants, then they will invest in that organization. For example, if this investor, for example, investor named A, he is more interested to a company or organization who are focusing on the practice or the programs or initiatives of handling ESG, because some of the company, they are only executing or involved in ESG program or initiatives because of KPI. Because they want to achieve their KPIs. That's where they involve in ESG. But what about if not the reason is not because of KPI, key performance indication? What about that? Okay, so basically they have to focus on doing it for the sustain of the organization, not only to achieve their KPI. No, because if today they achieve their KPI, then what about tomorrow? What about the next year? What about the following years, right? So basically, investors are more interested to know whether this initiative, these programs is handled carefully in the organization, and it is a long, I would say that a long success stories to be created by the organizations, and then they will be interested in invest in the organization. And the third one is PR focuses on cultural sensitivity and brand sentiment in building loyalty through community engagement. In any initiative, ESG or CSR initiative, the main thing is to look at the sensitivity of your target audience, the cultural sensitivity. You must know, you must involve in intercultural communication. You must involve in a lot of research to know about your audience. Then you are able to structure and to plan your ESG or CSR program to be conducted for the community. You have to plan so that when you look into all segments, then you will definitely come out, or you will definitely success in your programs or initiative for the audience. And the next one is PR develop brand activation and customer action through campaigns on the digital and traditional media platforms. When you want to promote your ESG initiative, your ESG programs, you are using the PR department, you're using the PR professional, or using the communication department in order to disseminate information to the public, on the right platform, at the right time, at the right place. That is the most important thing. And to share information with the media, so that the media will have a full coverage of your initiative on your program, and it will be able to achieve the objective, which is to create awareness of your program and initiative. And the next one is PR manage crisis through crisis communication plan. As I mentioned earlier, this now, for an organization who doesn't have a PR department, who are focusing only on HR probably, or someone who can handle with the media but not the PR person. What if there is a crisis happen in your organization? What if during handling your ESG initiative or program, there's a crisis happen along the way? So you need a crisis communication plan, and those who know, I would say that the person who knows what to do in a crisis communication plan is a PR person, so that this plan can be used during the crisis in order to sustain and to improve the reputation of the organization. And last but not least, PR increase the reputation of an organization and its brand post-crisis. This is what I mean. It's not during the crisis and post-crisis. Post-crisis to improve back the trust from the audience, the trust from the investor, the trust from the stakeholders to the company, in order for them to engage comfortably in the near future with the organization. Okay, now I would say that PR creates sustainable value in creating awareness of the importance of ESG and in an organization, internal communication. Like I mentioned this now, ESG has to be practiced internally before it goes to the public. PR person have to disseminate information in collaboration with the HR department, so that this message can be disseminated to the audience, internal audience, which is the staff, and they can be the working advertisement of the organization in order to promote ESG to the outside parties. And the last one is PR creates brand activation, which is drive stakeholders' involvement in CSR and ESG programs to uphold the good name of the organization. Like the brand strategies now, they have the brand activation to engage with the customer. But now PR creates brand activation to drive stakeholders, shareholders to involve in the ESG and CSR program of that particular organization. Okay, this is the last part I want to share with you through my experience. Yeah, to sustain and strengthen organization brand name and reputation. My advice to all of you, to mahasiswa, I'm pretty sure that mahasiswa of Trilogi University also involved in business, because nowadays we have young entrepreneurs involved in business. Try to focus on your brand name. Okay, try to focus on your brand name and try to have some PR public relation practices in order to promote your brand name. Number one, okay, you have to focus on the intellectual property of your services, of your brand name, of your product. The first one is your trademark, the name. For example, like Trilogi, Universitas Trilogi, it's a trademark, it's a brand name. Where is a trademark is a sign of capable of being represented graphically, which is capable of distinguishing goods or services. That is a trademark. Number two, that all of you must focus on the pattern. when you come out with something, you come up with an innovation to improve the daily lifestyle. For example, that is known as patent, which is an exclusive right granted for an invention, which is a product or a process that provides, in general, a new way of doing something or offers a new technical solution to a problem. You have to register. This is known also as IP, intellectual property. You have to register and make it patented so that people will not grab your innovation. If you don't do that, for example, like if I have a bad intention, I may grab that opportunity and register your innovation with the IP officers, and I will hold the custody of that patent. So you are no longer the custody of that patent, and you have to pay me if you want to use that particular innovation or product. And last but not least is the copyright. Copyright is a protection given to authors, copyright owner, and performer of their copyright work and performances. Okay, basically, you must focus on your intellectual property rights, so that cover it now, so that in the long run, in the future, you will be able to hold your patent, you will be able to hold your brand, and you will be able to hold your copyright. No one can take that away from you. And if I can share with all of you, this is IP officers in ASEAN. We have a World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, which is in Japan, HQ in Japan. You have Japan Patent Office, JPO, and you also have MIPO, Intellectual Property Corporation of Malaysia, in Malaysia. In Philippines, you have Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. And in Singapore, you have Intellectual Property Office of Singapore. And for Thailand, we have Department of Intellectual Property. And in Indonesia, we have Directorate General Kekayaan Intelektual. In Brunei, we have Brunei Darussalam Intellectual Property Office. In Korea, we have Korea Copyright Office. And lastly, in Laos, we have Department of Intellectual Property Laos. I would say that is all about my presentation. And I hope I didn't take any more time from this presentation, except for I have one pantun to share with everyone, Dr. Anis, if I may give pantun.
Yes, you can.
All right. Okay. Tugu Monash indah terpaut hati. Sini bina indah, budaya amat kukuh. Prince of Songkla University dan Trilogi University bersatu hati. Ilmu ESG disanjung, masa depan diperkukuh, insyaAllah. Pak Pungkap, terima kasih and thank you so much.
Very impressive, Mr. Sebli.
Thank you, Dr. Anis.
The pantun and also the presentation, of course. In short, what you were telling us is that sustainability from the PR point of view is maintaining and strengthening mutual relationship with stakeholders, investors, and public, and with that many form that you propose. I believe that audiences here have many questions for you for discussion, but please stay tuned because we are going to Professor Lim Weng Mak presentation first before we go to the question and answer session.
Sure, Dr. Anis.
Thank you, Mr. Sebli.
Most welcome, Dr. Anis.
Our next presenter is Professor Lim Weng Mak, the Dean of Sunway Business School, Sunway University. Before his presentation, allow me to read his curriculum vitae. Professor Lim obtained his bachelor with first-class honor and PhD with full scholarship from Monash University, graduate certificate in learning and teaching with high distinction from Swinburne University of Technology, and certificate in school management and leadership from Harvard University. He currently is the Dean of Sunway Business School, which is AACSB accredited, Editor-in-Chief of Global Business and Organizational Excellence, Associate Editor of Journal of Business Research, Elsevier, and Journal of Strategic Marketing, Routledge, lead high-level public policy discussion of UNESCO and WEF. Some of his achievement is entered into top 10% of scientists in the world based on the science-wide author database developed by Stanford University. Wow. And he's also multi-potential scientist who has received various awards and ranks, record holder of youngest professor in the Malaysia Book of Records, Honorary Academy of Sciences Malaysia, Top Research Scientist Malaysia, and Junior Chamber International 10 Outstanding Young Malaysian. Wow. Once again, wow, I'm amazed. Prof. Lim, welcome to Universitas Trilogi.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Anis.
I thank you for you joining us. You have 20 to 25 minutes for your presentations, and after that we have a discussion forum together with Mr. Sebli. Please,
Sure. Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Anis, and thank you very much for colleagues in Trilogi University for the invitation to this conference. My name is Mark. I think as mentioned, I'm the Dean of Sunway Business School. I can see my slides on screen now, so I believe that someone will actually help me to click on the slides. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, I think someone will help me to click on the slides. Or if not, is it possible that I can share my screen instead?
of course, you want to share it by yourself.
Yeah, I share my own screen. That will be easier.
Yeah, in a moment. Okay.
Yep, okay, now I can share my screen. So you just give me a moment. You'll be able to see my slides up on screen. Let me just get it up in the presentation mode. Yep, you should see my screen now. So once again, thank you very much to Universitas Trilogi for the very kind invitation to provide a keynote in this conference. And of course, my background is multidisciplinary business, so I do a range of research across different areas of business. I originally come from the marketing discipline, but over time, I ventured into management, into finance, economics, and whatnot. So, a brief introduction of where I'm located. So this is, as you can see on screen, this is mining land. This is Sunway in the 1980s, right? So this is how Sunway actually looked like. But fast forward today, we have seen that that wasteland has transformed into a wonderland. All right. So this was the vision of the founder of Sunway Group, Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia. He was able to see the potential in this land that we call Sunway now. As you can see, this is back in 2018, and now there is more developments around there. And, you know, the city is still very, very green. All right. So this is an example of a sustainable city in Malaysia. In fact, it's actually the first sustainable city in Malaysia where we have turned a wasteland into a wonderland. As you can see, there's a football field on the left. That's where Sunway University is. And you will see some orange building on the right at the bottom. That's where Monash is. So Monash and Sunway is actually opposite one another in Sunway City itself. So for most universities, they will have a campus. Sunway University also has a campus, but the one that really distinguishes us as a university is that we have a city with us. And at Sunway Business School, we are accredited by AACSB, so that's the hallmark or gold standard of business schools around the world. Only top 5% of business schools around the world have this accreditation. But besides that, our students not only earn a Sunway University degree, but they will also get another degree from Lancaster University, because Lancaster University validates our business degree at Sunway. Other than that, our business degrees are also recognized by professional bodies. So for our students in accounting, they will get exemptions from ACCA, CPA. For those in accounting, for those in non-accounting, then they could get additional certificates, for example, from Chartered Management Institute or the CIPD. In terms of ranking, the business economics rank, we are ranked in Times Higher Education in 300 category. So we're really, really proud of that. So, of course, if there's opportunity to come to Summit Business School, I will encourage you to consider us as well. All right, so this is how the new business school, which is currently being built. There's a new building over there that you see on screen. This will happen in the beginning of 2026, and that will hold about 7,000 students. So currently we're about 4,000 students, so we have quite a bit to grow before 2026. All right, so into the topic of today in terms of current business trends, I will share with you some of the business trends that I'm working on in business research. So for me, you know, I'm just like many of you in the audience, the mahasiswa, mahasiswi. I'm also young like you. I come from the millennial generation, and perhaps you might be the Zoomers, Generation Z. But one thing that is common between us is this, right? You know, we want to move very fast. We want to do a lot of things. And people in my generation, and I'm sure that, you know, once you start working, it may happen to you as well, is that people in my generation, as millennials, we like to jump from one job to another, right? But because I'm in academia, I don't have to jump from one job to another. I just have to jump from one research interest or one topic to another topic. So I'm actually very, very interested in doing research in trending areas, right? What's trending? And I bring these insights then to the classroom. So this means that, you know, my own students at Sunway will definitely get the latest insights from the lecturers, right? And I think today, you know, the mahasiswa and mahasiswi at, you know, Universitas Trilogi will have this opportunity to also, you know, get a glimpse of some of these recent trends that I'm also sharing with, you know, the others at Sunway. All right. So the first one is, of course, the COVID-19. All right. And of course, COVID-19 has happened, and then we have moved from pandemic to endemic. All right. So endemic means COVID-19 is, you know, somewhat kind of over. It's not a pandemic anymore. But this was really, you know, in 100 years, the biggest mega disruption that we have all encountered. All right. So for everyone here living here today, this is the first mega disruption that ever happens, I think, in our entire lifetime. Right, the last that actually happened was I think back in 1915 or something like that, when the Spanish flu was there. You know, it was also like COVID-19. It killed a lot of people, and I think it was actually more devastating because I think at that point in time it killed 1/3 of the world's population. But thankfully, with the advances of sciences, we managed to contain COVID-19 through vaccines. Right, so this is you know, in modern history, this is the first mega disruption that we ever encountered, and this disruption is not like any other pandemics like SARS or Ebola or whatnot, because the whole world actually entered a lockdown. And from a business perspective, when lockdown happens, the economy becomes paralyzed. Of course, not fully paralyzed, because we still have the necessity sectors being run, but a lot of different sectors become paralyzed, and that causes a lot of issues. But hey, the good thing is this, right? We managed to actually overcome this. We now know how to overcome this, and we are in a much better state than before, if ever such a situation, such a mega disruption were to happen again. And of course, through the mega disruption, I think one of the biggest benefits or advantages of COVID, or this mega disruption that we have experienced, is the acceleration of digital transformation, right? So Industrial 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0 came about in sometime in 2016 or 2017 or so. But little did we know, you know, the uptake of technology is usually very slow. But because of COVID-19, what has happened is that digital transformation occurred overnight. Everybody have to start using technology. Businesses have to shift from physical to online. The adoption of mobile apps, smartphones, smart devices, and so on got accelerated. And because of that, even in the case of research, a lot of things we can't do physical data collection anymore. So then we explore online different options for data collection. And it's not just, you know, from physical surveys to online surveys, physical interviews to online interviews, but also new techniques that leverages off technology and analytics. So example of that is the area of artificial intelligence and blockchain, right? So we accelerated the adoption of that. It became widespread. And when we look at artificial intelligence, it's not just about looking at data. We have seen many applications of artificial intelligence. For example, we see a lot of chatbots around because there was an increase in online shopping. A lot of people have questions. So chatbots are around in many different online marketplaces as well as online stores now. Other than that, as we can see last year, in 2023, we saw the introduction of ChatGPT. I'm very sure that many of you are using it, but use it responsibly. So as you can see, the adoption and the pace of transformation in the digital space has become phenomenal. All right. And in the case of blockchain, blockchain actually identifies a lot of assets, and it allows people to track digital assets as well as physical assets, especially in the logistic industry. Blockchain is actually very powerful. But other than that, I think the digital space, especially with the rise of the metaverse as well, because everybody's shift to the online virtual world, the metaverse has also kicked off. Right? If you ask me, without COVID-19, all this innovation that we are looking in the digital space would not have accelerated so much if it wasn't the case of the kind of disruption that we saw through COVID-19. Next, there is also the trend of an aging population. So as we can see around the world, especially in Asia, we are experiencing an aging population. And what do we mean by aging population is that the growth of people aged 60 years and above is becoming a bigger or larger, if I may say. All right, and this is expected to reach 30% of the world's population by 2050. Right, and 2050 is not very far away. In Malaysia, it's about 15%. In some countries like Japan, it's already at 50%. So in Indonesia, I believe this is also a substantial percentage. So this is really a market that we need to look at. All right, a lot of our parents, they've been working for very long, and now we are in university. They are entering the aging population. They are, becoming 60 years and above. And this is an important segment to look after. But besides that, right, it's not just the dynamics of aging that is also changing. There is also an intergenerational shift that is happening. All right. So it's like, for example, a lot of times when we read, whether it's articles, journal papers, and whatnot, we always hear the term millennials, all right? And they always label millennials as young adults. But that is actually wrong, because millennials, like myself, we are no more young adults. We have actually transitioned from young adults to middle-aged adults, right? So millennials have already transitioned from young adults to middle-aged adults, whereas Zoomers have now come out, Generation Z has now come out from teenagers into the young adulthood, right? So what that means is that the needs and wants of the different generations have also shifted, right? Like, for example, when we were kids, we like certain things, but when we grow up, become teenager, we like different things. And then when we go into the working world, all right, we may need different things then. So the patterns of consumption and the liking and preferences have also changed. And because of that, it is time for us to also revisit some of the things that we thought we knew about certain generations and see whether that still applies or whether certain things have actually shifted. All right. So this is an important trend to actually acknowledge. Besides that, we also have the issue of a sustainability crisis. And what do we mean by sustainability crisis here is this. If we look back at the term sustainable development, that was a term that was coined in 1989. All right. And then when we entered the new millennium in year 2000, we had the Millennium Development Goals. And if we remember, the Millennium Development Goals from year 2000 to 2015 was 8 different Millennium Goals. But in 2015, at the end of 2015, the last quarter of 2015, we saw the launch of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and we saw 17 of those goals. All right. So what we have seen is that 8 Millennium Development Goals previously, and now we have 17 different goals. So the question is, are we actually making progress? The answer is clearly not making progress. Then we saw the COVID-19 pandemic happen, and that actually amplified the magnitude of sustainability crisis that we are in. For example, we experienced lockdown, right? And we talk about lockdown, that, we have less cars on the road and whatnot. So supposedly pollution will actually reduce. But then we see that the climate has not improved. In fact, the climate change has actually accelerated. All right. And this is also in part for the computing power that we need to power our artificial intelligence and whatnot, because technology also consumes a lot of energy, and energy, when we consume, leads to emissions. Right. And if we look at not just the environmental perspective, when we look at the social perspective, for example, when we look at poverty, global poverty has actually grown since the COVID-19 pandemic, to the extent that as a whole, poverty has actually become worse rather than improve over time. We were actually making progress in terms of global poverty up to the COVID-19 pandemic, but the COVID-19 pandemic has created a massive regress rather than progress when it comes to poverty alleviation. And because of that, when we look at all the different SDG indicators, 208 indicators, we have found ourselves in a situation where we are not progressing in any of these indicators, right? Instead of progressing, we are actually regressing. So we only have another 6 more years to go before 2030, which is the target of the SDGs. And if we keep up with this pace, what will happen is that we will not be achieving those targets. And, if I can put a wager, I would say by 2030, we will not actually achieve it unless we do something really, transformational around it. If not, by 2030, what will happen is that someone very brilliant will come out with 50 goals for 2050. Right, that is what we're actually looking at. Other than that, I think before the presentation by Shelby and myself, there was another official that actually presented a presentation, and I think I heard that he actually touched on ESG reporting. So yes, ESG reporting is talk of the hour, but I also acknowledge that ESG should not be viewed as a cost; it should be viewed as an investment. Right? One of the research that I did was in India that looks at CSR before it became mandatory and after it became mandatory. All right, before it became mandatory, CSR had the signaling power, meaning that companies that engage in CSR voluntarily was able to signal this to investors. Number one, companies that do CSR, if they do it, means they're profitable, right? Because if only when they're profitable, they can do CSR. But if they also do CSR, it is not just saying that they're profitable, but they are also innovative because they can actually find ways to actually make money. So that was the signal that CSR gave before it became mandatory. But after CSR became mandatory in India, CSR lost their signaling power. So if we don't want the same fate to happen to ESG, then we must make sure that ESG is embraced by organizations, not just those that are publicly listed or large corporations, but also SMEs as well. And the reason why I say this is not a cost, but rather investment, is because when you engage in ESG and you have an ESG rating, what that means is that now you can do business not just in your country, but also internationally, especially in Europe, where ESG is such a big thing. So to participate in that supply chain as a firm, you will also need to be demonstrating that you are also doing good for the environment with minimal environmental and social degradation, right? So these are the main trends that I've picked up through my research and that you can see on screen. And of course, if you want to learn more, you can download these articles and learn more about these trends. So what are some of the solutions? In the area of sustainability, I've been championing this, all right? In the area of sustainability, the solution has always been balancing between the environment, the society, and economic considerations. But we realize that this is not working. We have been saying that for 20 over years, but it has not worked. We have, and when things don't work, you really have to change. So the idea here that I champion here is what I call the sustainability pyramid, where you look at it like the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So the Maslow hierarchy of needs says that you will satisfy your lower level needs before you go to higher level. So from that perspective, here we are championing the argument that you fulfill your economic needs first, because 80% consumers or excuse me, I think there is someone that is talking. Can you please mute it? Yeah. All right. So coming back to this pyramid here, what is being championed here is that in order for greater sustainability to work, meaning that for 80% of people who are not sustainable, in order to get them sustainable, you have to address it in this way, in a pyramid form, whereby you have to address the economic concerns first. And once people are actually, convinced about economic concerns, then they will care about things that are closest to them than things that are furthest to them, right? So usually for most people, things that are closest to them as society, their family and friends, and then only the environment. And when you position it in this way, this is how I think, the greater society will actually move towards more sustainable solutions upfront, right? Right. Besides that, there is also the case of CSR and ESG that I mentioned earlier. So I won't talk too much into this, but this is the evidence of CSR losing its signaling power after it becomes mandatory. And the one on the right, you look at ESG, the idea is this. It's not just to look at ESG as a reporting, but the idea is to look at ESG as a philosophy and then to engage in quality management improvement processes, for example, total quality management, TQM, to improve on ESG performance, like how you improve on profitable performance, financial performance. Other than that, you also have financing as well, the different avenues for sustainable finance. So if you want businesses and society to be more sustainable in their behaviors, in their practices, in their operations, then you have to promote more of sustainable finance. And within sustainable finance, there are a whole range of different options, whether it's climate financing, carbon financing, green financing, ethical financing, social responsible investing, and whatnot. So these are different solutions, different mechanisms that we can use to promote environmentally responsible finance and socially responsible finance. And these are things that are in place. Other than that, is also to reimagine the future of HR practices, because we know that we have undergone a digital revolution, and with more AI that is out there, the fear of AI robots taking over our jobs is legit. Because if we do not actually master these things, what will happen is that we will then become replaced, and because of that, we will need to actually rethink the future of HR practices. And of course, in HR practices, there's a lot of dark side to it. So this is a model that we have proposed to look at, reskilling, not just reskilling, but also promoting entrepreneurial behavior using AI, promote practices that promote employee empowerment, to democratize different technologies, and to also remember prioritizing employee well-being and work-life balance, right, in order to manage and remain sane in this tech-oriented future that we are looking at. Of course, there is also the importance of innovation ecosystem, which means that companies will need to continually evolve and innovate, and this really requires a whole range of different elements such as leadership, organizational culture, the cultivation of dynamic capabilities, and whatnot, right? So this is important to create an innovation ecosystem that will empower companies and businesses to thrive in the future of work. Of course, there's the others in terms of organizational citizenship behavior, and this is important because in the era of technology and an era that is so dynamic, it's very difficult to get every decisions correct, right? So what's important is that we also provide an environment where people are allowed to make mistakes, and when people make mistakes, they are supported in a sensible way, meaning that they have taken calculated risks, and if there's anything around that, we can also find a way to support it. So the idea is about collective improvement rather than pinpointing and stuff. So this will actually create a stronger sense of organizational citizenship behavior, because when that actually happens, people are willing to try out new things and to also support others in trying out new things, which is really important in the future of work. Other than that, in terms of sales, it's important to realize that consumers today have a lot of information at their hands, and because of that, most consumers will already know what they want to buy. So for people who want to do sales, it's important that you recognize this concept called challenger marketing, because you will need to then unteach your consumers about what they think they know, to teach them something that is new that they have not thought about, and then to tailor that sales conversation so that the consumer will favor your solution that you actually have. All right, that you're able to take control of the sales conversation. Because if not, what will happen is that, because if consumers already know what they want to buy and you let them do what as it is, what will happen is that companies will then become in a red ocean where they will just compete on price, because then you cannot unteach and teach the consumer something new, right? So challenger marketing is a good concept that is important for you to also take note, because remember, every business survive based on revenue. So it's important that sales is well taken care of, not just employees' well-being, like what we have seen earlier. Other than that, it's also group buying. So a lot of times people purchase individually, but when you can leverage the power of group buying, meaning that consumers come as a group, as sellers, you will get an immediate big pool of customers, right? And of course, because of that, you can reward the customers or the consumers with perhaps a slightly discount, right? So it becomes win-win on both sides. From consumer perspective, they get a better price. For a seller perspective, they get a bigger pool of customers as compared to individual buying. Customer engagement, this is a big thing as well, because customers who are engaged will remain loyal to you, will follow you, and will support you in what you do. All right. So this is important because remember, a customer that you lose is equivalent to 5 times the new customer that you will need to get. All right. So that's very important. And that's why customer engagement is really, really important in today's world. Other than that, because of the power of technology, personalization has become really, really important. And this is something that I think you should be looking at. And, you know, in the case of conversational commerce, where we have Alexa, we have ChatGPT and whatnot now, it's important to embed all these structures over there. So the future, I would say, in order to address the different trends out there, the future is co-created by different stakeholders. The future is also integrated, where everything is integrated seamlessly. It's a whole seamless experience. The future is also shared because we have less resources, so we need to promote sharing economy. The future is also needs to be sustainable, because if we are not sustainable, today's generation will in fact be the last generation. And of course, the last one, that is the future will be tech-oriented, where robots will be there, and as humans, we will need to then work with robots in order to be efficient in what we do and to survive in the world that lies ahead. So with that, thank you very much, and I look forward to some questions during the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Lim, or how you prefer me to call you?
Yeah, just call me Mark, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting presentation from Professor Lim. Yeah, Professor Lim told us all that can be done for the future. He told us what have been done and what has not been done. For students, I think this presentation would be very beneficial for your research, your future research. Okay, we have 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes for question and answer, or more? Yeah, 25 minutes and more for questions and answers. If that audience is here, also I have already have their questions. I open question for three first questions. One over here, second over there, third over there. One is for each row, okay? First questions. Could you please run over here so Mr. Sibley and Professor Lim can see you? Please state your name and mention your question.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Sibley, Mr. Prof. Ling. I'm Mohamad from Universitas Trilogi, majoring in accounting. I have a question for Mr. Sibley. Okay. Before, thank you for Mr. Sibley. Your presentation very interesting. I have a question discussing about ESG and brand image. Can ESG practice by corporation relate to increasing brand image? Thank you, Mr. Sibley. Can ESG practice by corporation relate to increase brand image? Thank you.
Is that all? No more question?
No.
No, thank you, Akmal. Another question from over here. Okay, can you just put the camera to her instead of her landing here? Microphone, please.
afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Seble and Professor Lim. I'm Gita Kusumawardani.
Can you please speak louder?
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Seble and Professor Lim. I'm Gita Kusumawardani from majoring accounting program. I want to ask Professor Lim, the question is, what are the implications of cultural and geographical variation in ESG priorities and implementation strategies for global investment flows and corporate practices? Thank you.
There's a second question for Professor Lim. Okay, the third question over there. No. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Tes. Okay. Good afternoon. Sorry.
Can you please stand up so Prof.
Yeah.
Lim and Mr. Seble can see you? One step forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not good to speak English, but I try my best. Let me introduce myself. My name is Matius Pasaribu, and I'm a student in Trilogi University. And then I take a major in this university is economic development. And then we know that the whole world is accelerating the transformation of carbon-based vehicles to electric vehicles. However, battery companies that accommodate this transformation have had environmentally destructive effects that are detrimental to the environment and society. And I have two questions, and then I send to test both of our speakers today. The first one is, what action is this battery company taking to comply with ESG in order to create optimum social cost result for society and the company? Then what is the government role in accommodating this? And the second one is, we as consumer, especially student in Indonesia, what kind of action can we take when we know that battery factories also cause environmental damage? But on the other hand, we are continuously directed to switch to electric transportation. That is my question. Thank you very much.
This question is for Professor Lim or to Mr. Seble or to both of them? Both of them. Okay. Question number one is the impact of ESG to increase the brand image, and the second one is, what was that? It was very long. I think Professor Lim understand the question. And question number three is about the use of cars and the effect for the carbon, right? Okay. Who wants to answer first? Mr. Seble, I think, for question number one.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thank you to Mas. I didn't get your name just now, Mas. Okay. I call Adik, yeah? Okay. Adik, thank you for your question. It's a very, very nice question actually. Okay, my question is, maybe you may not answer this question, but my question to you is, dari mana kamu beli baju batik kamu? Yang kamu pakai tadi, cantik sekali. Okay. Okay. Same goes sama saya. Hari ini saya pakai baju batik dibikin di Jakarta. Dari Jakarta. Saya sering ke Jakarta and always go to Jakarta during New Year, except for this year. Okay, except for last year, but this year, yeah, inshallah. And this is made for me actually from Batik Eyang in Jakarta. Okay, so there goes my answer, because number one, that you mentioned is now that to increase brand loyalty, right? For the ESG. Same goes like when you are using your batik. Same goes with me when I'm using a batik shirt now, batik jacket now. Okay, I have my trust in that particular tailor, tailor yang bikin jacket ini. Okay, I have trust, and then it met my expectation. Okay, because my need and wants is to have a batik jacket that suits me, because saya ni gendut, saya ni gemuk, ya. Jadi saya perlu bikin batik khas buat saya. Okay, same goes with the corporate organization. Number one is the ESG initiative or programs
Recording stopped.
must meet the expectation, must meet number one, the needs and wants of the audience. Who are the audience? Is the public, the stakeholders, the shareholders. They are the public. They are the audience.
Recording in progress.
The needs and wants of the shareholders. And number two is when you already met their needs and wants, it will definitely create trust. Okay, when you only created trust between the audience and your organization, then you are able to move forward. Which is the next one is to meet their expectation. Okay, I repeat, number one is you to have to meet the needs and wants of your audience. Number two, to create trust. And the next stage is you are able to meet their expectation. Okay, so basically for the ESG, yes, the brand name can be increased if you are able to fulfill the needs and wants of your audience. And the most important thing is through your ESG programs, initiatives, you are able to increase, to maintain, or to increase your organization reputation in the eye of the audience. That is the most important thing. Okay, and back to the adik sister tadi, I call Teh. Teh is adik, right? Okay. For example, like you mentioned, sorry, not Teh. The brother just now, the last question is now for the active factory environmental damage. I would say that it may or may not damage the environment, but it's how the audience perceive or get the information from the organization. For example, like you mentioned just now, to switch daripada kenderaan mobil menggunakan minyak ke electric vehicles. Yeah, same goes with me here. I work in Thailand here. I work in Hanya here. I'm using bicycle. Okay, number one, to reduce my weight. Number two, to save the environment. Okay, this how your organization able to disseminate the information that you are an organization which concerned about the environment. Okay, convey that message to the audience and to make sure that you really focus on that initiative, which is you are an organization who focus on the environmental improvement. Is then basically disseminate information to the audience, and at the same time, do not get involved with any unrelated environmental damage. Then you are able to uphold the brand name of your organization. And for the rest, I think I would give to Professor Lim to answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sebley. Professor Lim?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think for the questions. I think the question is really, really spot on. I'm very intrigued by the thoughtfulness of the questions. So, of course, the second question that was asked just now in terms of implication of cultural and geographical factors on ESG, on corporate practices and whatnot, is right. Right, ESG is being viewed very differently across different countries and therefore across different cultures and geographical regions. What may be relevant for the global north may not necessarily be relevant for the global south. For example, all right, if we talk about environment, in the global north, perhaps there's a lot of pollution that's going on in there. But when we look at, the different islands in Indonesia, the different forestry areas in Malaysia, there is nothing wrong with the environment. Everything is good. The air is super clean, right? So from that perspective, it's very difficult to say that we are going to improve things related to the environment in that area, right? So then it becomes a shift in terms of what is really the issue in your area. And how are you going about addressing those issues? And when you have your operations, how are you making sure that your operations are not contributing to any degradation, whether it's from an environmental or social perspective? I'll give you an example. I think previously, I think about 15 years ago in Indonesia, Procter & Gamble wanted to address the issue of hygiene among rural communities in Indonesia. And they actually gave sachets, all right, small packets of shampoo to the communities, because that becomes cheaper and becomes more affordable to many. But because of that, what has happened is that, yes, the society becomes more hygienic, but the problem with that is that all the sachets then gets thrown away, and then that creates a lot of waste. So that actually has a positive effect on the social element of sustainability, but a negative element in terms of environment. So because of that, what's really important is to take that whole life cycle kind of approach in terms of what is actually happening with the activities that we do. So I'm in full agreement that, in terms of ESG activities, we cannot have a one-size-fit-all strategy. We can have a general framework in terms of what needs to be considered, and that is where, in terms of the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, I think that's a good framework, but we should not be specifying exactly what goes into scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 for everyone, and everyone must follow the exact same thing. I don't think that is the way, but I think overarching framework with that flexibility for people to actually customize based on their context, I think that is what would actually work. The third question, in terms of using of cars and contributing to the carbon emissions and whatnot, and of course the opportunities for new energy vehicles that that is using battery, cleaner energy, like hydrogen, right? The point here is this, all right? If we notice, hybrid and new energy vehicles, they are actually really expensive. They're actually more expensive than the normal vehicles, right? But nevertheless, what has happened is that governments have actually provided incentives for that. So they have actually provided tax exemptions, which is a good thing. So I would say, use that to the advantage, because as consumers, if you take a life cycle, a new energy vehicle or right, you have to save economic costs using hybrid vehicles. So my answer to that is really to look at the production perspective as well as the consumption perspective, because the production perspective is where you can actually help consumers to become more efficient, whereas for the consumer perspective, by using these new energy vehicles, you are also able to signal to others that you are also committing positive impacts to the environment. Yeah, so that's my answer to the two questions that were.
Okay, I think the answer from Mr. Sibley and Prof. Lim answer your question, right? You? Okay. Okay. Are there some questions in the Zoom also, in the online? Not yet. So for second session, I'd like you in the auditorium to ask questions as well. If you are worried about your English, don't worry, just shoot your question. We can help you with your English. Yes, Zakia. Another one? Satrio, one more for the second session. Okay, over there. Somebody please give Zakia the microphone. Don't worry about your English because Professor Lim and Mr. Sibley can speak Bahasa very well.
Okay, hello, good afternoon, Mr. Sibley and Professor Lim. My name is Zakia. I'm a student of Accounting Study Program Universitas Trilogi, and I want to ask to Mr. Sibley, and my question is, are there any risks or limitation associated with the brand's dependence on public relations strategies, and how to manage this risk? Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again? Boleh ulang soalannya?
Okay. My question is, are there any risks or limitation associated with the brand's dependence on public relations strategies, and how to manage this risk?
Are there any relation between what? Zakia? Relation between what and?
I repeat again.
Okay, please.
Are there any risks or limitations associated with the brand's dependence on public relations strategies, and how to manage this risk?
Okay, risk on brand.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second question. Yeah, Satrio.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Sibley and Professor Lim. I have some question. How are universities addressing concern about data privacy, security, and transactional integrity in the development and operation of the online group buying platform, and what strategies are being implemented to facilitate seamless integration between the online group buying platform and existing university system and process. Thank you.
Slower, please. Once again, slower.
My question is, how are universities addressing concern about data privacy, security, and transactional integrity in the development and operation of the online group buying platform? And what strategies are being implemented to facilitate seamless integration between the online group buying platform and existing university system and process?
Okay. What do universities do to protect themselves from the digitalization, right? The last question for this session. Okay.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, Dr. Anis, Professor Lim, and Mr. Shibley. I would like to ask a question for Professor Lim. The question is, what are the emerging trends in ESG reporting standards, and how are the researchers evaluating their effectiveness in promoting transparency and accountability? And also, how are academics exploring the interplay between ESG consideration and long-term value creation for companies and their stakeholders? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sibley, could you please answer the first question from
Zakia.
Siapa tadi? Zakia, okay.
Okay, so, Assalamualaikum. Thank you to Sister Zakia. Terima kasih. Dr. Anis, should I in English or in Bahasa?
You want Mr. Sibley to answer in English or Bahasa? Oh, up to you lah, Mr. Sibley.
Okay, all right. So basically, it's a very good question, Sister Zakia. Okay, for the there is a risk and there is also a limitation for brand dependency in an organization. But like what I did, what in my presentation is now, I mentioned that the most important thing is for you to uphold the good name of your brand. Okay, meaning to strengthen the brand name of your organization, of your product, of your services. Okay, and then when you are able to do so, then you are able to reduce or to put zero risk to your brand and to your reputation. Okay, I repeat, if you are able to increase the your brand name, you uphold the brand name and you strengthen the brand name of the organization or your service or products, then you are able to put it zero risk or at minimal risk. Okay, and if there is any in any situation that your organization or your brand name is at risk, the most important part is to communicate with the PR person, the person who are in charge of the public relation or communication or perhumas in your organization, have to look into this matter very thoroughly, meaning to look into it dalam-dalam. Okay, because when brand is at stake or brand is at risk, meaning it will tarnish the whole image of the organization, and it may or may not affect the business of the organization. Okay, let me share with you. Yeah, for example, there's one. If I may share with all of you, previously I worked in an oil and gas company. There is one situation where there is a risk happen where there's one of the offshore employee, a death of an offshore employee, and then the news been spread out to all staff in the onshore company, onshore offices. Okay, but then the person who are supposed to in charge of that particular situation does not handle it well. Okay, so there goes a PR department, whereas I was in the PR department. So we take that situation and control the situation and information so that it will not disseminate to the media. It will not disseminate information. The information will not go to the stakeholders or the shareholders. Okay, and furthermore, the most important thing is to handle that situation very well, or it can be also called as crisis communication plan. To have a plan. Okay, first, number one is to know about the risk. Number two, to handle the risk by using your plan, and number three, to disseminate the information to the public. Okay, when you are able to handle the situation, you are putting your company at a rest. For example, like di mana your organization will be able to communicate with the audience. But if you are not able to handle the situation accordingly, and the information disseminated to the outsiders, especially to the media, then you will be at stake where the media may or may not put a negative news on your organization, and it will tarnish your organization name, and the reputation of your organization will be moving down. Okay, so in conclusion, I would say that the PR person, the PR person, we don't call PR strategist, we call the PR professional or practitioner, must be able to handle any risk in an organization in order to protect and to increase and to strengthen the brand name of the organization at any situation happen. So that is my answer.
Okay. Zakia, you okay with the answer? Okay, thank you, Mr. Sibley. Second question from...
Yeah, I think I'll take the questions. I've written them down here. So let me take the question. I think the question was on data privacy, security, integrity, and what's actually been done in this space, regardless of whether it's education institutions or whether it's online platforms, group buying or something like that. I've heard. Yeah, I think there's two ways to look at this. One is that when we look at the different platforms that are out there now, usually you have one single ID, it works for everything, all right? So that is the convenience and seamlessness that a lot of developers are actually doing. But on the other hand, there is also the case of privacy, security, integrity, and that is where the multi-factor authentication space is actually developing very, very rapidly. So as you can see now, there are multiple ways you can authenticate yourself, whether it's through a password, whether it's through pattern recognition, whether it's through biometric recognition, such as your fingerprint or your face. So all these things are being embedded there, and users can choose which method they actually want, and not just one method, they can actually choose multiple methods. So that, I think, creates a more rigorous security system. And because of the power of blockchain, what happens is that these things are actually encrypted. And when it's encrypted, it means that people cannot really access it. So that creates the opportunities for seamless experience, yet in a very secure and a private manner. So I hope that answers the question. So the point there I want you to take away is, number one, everything's becoming integrated because of convenience and seamlessness, and that has been powered by blockchain technology. But nevertheless, it's still remaining secure, and has its integrity there. And this is because of multi-factor authentication, the power of it. All right, and it's on multiple levels these days. The third question, I believe, was on the emerging trends in ESG standards and what's being done for transparency and to be more proactive in ESG in the long run, because I think I heard the word value creation. So my thoughts on that is that the emerging trends on ESG now, it's ready to get more people on board. That's number one. Number two, there is a lot of debate around ESG because there are different rating agencies out there, and different rating agencies use different types of formats or different types of formula and whatnot. And because of that, many businesses are actually confused in terms of what they actually want to do. So the current debate there is now whether can we actually consolidate all these different standards for ESG and bring them together. That's work in progress, because that's what people are trying to do out there. But can they actually do it? I don't think so, because everybody wants a piece of the pie and wants, and doesn't want to share or doesn't want to consolidate under a bigger umbrella. So what I would say is, these rating agencies become a marketplace on their own. So meaning that companies will choose rating agencies based on their performance. Which agency will give them the highest rating, that's the agency that they will actually use, right? And then it becomes the market force in terms of which agency that they will want to recognize and don't want to recognize. So from that perspective, that is the emerging trend of ESG now, in terms of getting these rating agencies to consolidate. But on the other hand, in reality, will this really happen? I don't think so, because of the political powers at play. So what this means in the longer run is that if for the rest of the world, my prediction is the same. What happened to ESG? What happened with CSR before it became mandatory? It has a signaling power. Once it becomes mandatory, I predict that is going to happen with ESG. But the way companies will then overcome that is through continuous quality improvement, the ability to value co-create, right? So when you're actually able to create value, you're able to continuously improve, then that signals to people that that company is profitable, it's innovative, and is really performing well, not just in terms of economic sense, but also environmental and social sense. So from that perspective, I believe the continuous improvement and value creation will be the strength of any ESG initiative in the future. All right, in order to reap the rewards from ESG, that what actually needs to happen: the continuous improvement and the value creation. Because the regulators, the rating agencies, I don't see them, consolidating under one big umbrella. I don't see that happening. So yeah, hopefully that gives some perspective to the two questions that were asked.
Okay, and so the debate will create other topic for research, I suppose, as well. Okay. Thank you very much for all the questions.
May I add something on the data privacy?
Sorry, what's that, Mr.?
May I add something on data privacy just now? The question on data privacy.
Please.
Okay. It's very simple. It's very short. My advice to the brother who asked the question is, and to my brothers and sisters over there, and I am probably a traditional kind of person. Okay, and I believe that any document, any official document, or any related to the organization should not be shared in any like, for example, like WhatsApp group or WeChat group or Line group. It should be shared on an official platform, for example, like via email, via letter, via memorandum. Okay, because it shows whether you are practicing the corporate ethics professionally or not. Okay, because I do agree. Even some of the bosses, they share the document, even they share the agreement on WhatsApp group. Yeah, I do agree. I can see that. But my advice is not to do that. Make it official, because it is an official document. It is an official agreement between both parties. It is an official letter. It is an official memorandum or something. Make it official by sending via email or by hand. Okay, do not share it on any social media platform or on any communication platform. Okay, because it is for us to protect the data of our organization. Because once we share on the groups, WhatsApp or Line or WeChat, it may or may not be disseminated to others within a single second. And who will be accountable of that particular practice? Who will be answerable of that particular practice? Yeah. But if you send it via email using, for example, like Shabli@University, for example, it is an official email, and I will be responsible if that particular information or email or document being spread out to the wrong person. So my advice is, be careful on what you share on groups communication.
Thank you, Mr. Seble. That's the end of season 1, and the good news is that all of you that ask questions will get prizes from the committee. Applause. And you should contact the committee for the prizes. Yeah, and this is the end of season 1. Thank you very much for Professor Lim and Mr. Sebley.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Applause
Thank you,
for
Mr. Anis.
Professor Lim and Mr. Sebley.
Okay, once again, thank you so much for our speakers today, Abdul. But before we end the session, we would like to invite Ibu Ati, Dr. Ati Herawati to the stage because you are going to give the e-certificate to our speakers today.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is for certificate, Mr. Sebley. Thank you, Mr. Sebley.
Thank you, Dr. Ati. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. The second certificate for
For
the second certificate. Okay, a certificate for Professor Lim Mohamad. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Once again, please give big applause for our speakers today, Mr. Sabli Haslan Abdul Majid from Thailand and Professor Lim Mohamad from Malaysia. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we come to the second session of the seminar, and this is the beginning of session 2. I would like to welcome Dr. Awaluddin, Mohamad Awaluddin. And before we start, I'd like to read his curriculum vitae. Dr. Insinyur Mohamad Awaluddin M.A. currently is the President Commissioner of PELNI Indonesia. He got his doctor degree in Science in Management from Pajajaran University, Master of Business Administration in European University, and Bachelor of Electrical Engineering in Sriwijaya University. Among his work experience is currently as the President Commissioner of PT PELNI, and previously he is the President Director of PT Angkasa Pura II Persero. There are several seminar, benchmark training and courses. Some of them are Executive Education Program, Strategic Management, Creating and Sustaining Competitive Advantage at Cambridge Just Business School, and Indonesia Certified Professional Marketer ICPM at Indonesia Marketing Association Indonesia. Without no further ado, Pak Awal, welcome to Universitas Trilogi.
Thank you, Bu. Terima kasih.
Before we start, please, audiences, please remain seated because we still have 2 presenters. You have 20 minutes, Pak Awal, for your presentations, and after that, directly we have a question and answers. 2 questions only for Pak Awal because Pak Awal is going to go for another important meeting. Please, Pak Awal, the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to gather here today, and also very honored to join with the distinguished guests esteemed speakers and participants from various institutions and backgrounds. Allow me to extend a warm honor, starting with Mrs. Ati Herawati, the Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Business, and Humanities in Trilogi University. Terima kasih Bu Ati. It is my first time to join with the Trilogi University, and also my honor to Mrs. Sri Opti, the head of the Accounting Study Program. And I would like also to extend the heartfelt welcome to the next speaker, Professor Pawan Adhikari, whose expertise and insights are invaluable to our discussion today. Last but not least, of course, I would like also to acknowledge and thank to our moderator, Bu Anis. Yeah, thank you, Bu Anis, for graciously guiding us today's proceedings. Furthermore, I'm delighted to start my presentation according with the topic of the encouraging sustainable infrastructure with ESG and public investment policy. In light of the pressing need, I think, for the sustainable development, this topic holds the immense relevance and significance. Okay, next. Yeah, there are three outlines. The first one is the challenges and sustainable finance opportunities for building the infrastructure with the ESG platform, I think. And the second one is how Indonesia and also around the world setting up the net zero policies and governance. And also the main topic that, according to my expertise background, is how we set up with the green infrastructure, energy, and technologies. Next. Okay, next. So we are starting with the slide in the topic of the climate change. So in this ever the changing world, I think we are facing the very significant challenges, testing of the resilience, the sustainability of the global development, which is climate change. Uncontrolled temperature rise, increasingly the frequent extreme of the weather, and then the threat of sea level rise have become undeniable realities. It is very crucial that crucial for us, I think, to design planning capable of accommodating the challenge posed by the climate change. This is not just about responding to change, but also about preparing ourselves with the right strategies to mitigate the potential impact. Additionally, we must implementing the sustainable practices in all aspects of our lives. So this includes promoting renewable energy, how we can reducing the plastic waste, and also enhancing the efficiency of the natural resources that we use. We cannot tackle this challenge alone, I think. So international cooperation is a key to making significant progress in addressing the climate change. Next. So in the process of recovering from the impacts of COVID-19, Indonesia, as a big country, is still requiring the financial support. Our GDP has declined quite much due to the COVID-19, accompanied by weakened employment and productivity. But recovery has begun. Indonesia's economy has consistently grown by more than 50% over, and the 5 consecutive quarters giving good progress for Indonesia, yet remains below 6 until 8%. target. So the target is quite high. And it is needed to achieve high income status. The previous high economic growth driven by significant investment, it is now slowing down, reaching a 2-year low of 2.1% in the first quarter of 2023 year on year. And this is about deceleration of the aligns with the trend of declining the GDP growth potential. Although COVID-19 caused a decline in GDP, but significant recovery was observed since 2022. The G20 presidency of Indonesia prioritized inclusive and sustainable economic development. Collective action and inclusive collaboration between advanced and developing economies are at the core of the G20 event last year. Particularly, I think the gaps widened by COVID-19 across society, health, education, and trade require coordinated action focused on 3 main pillars. So overall, Indonesia has actively advocated for the global health resilience, digital transformation, and sustainable energy transition in international forum. So cross-sector collaboration and international cooperation are the key to addressing the complex global challenges. As a consequences of the pandemic, Indonesia facing a fiscal constraint with the infrastructure needs amounting to 400 trillion IDR during 2020 until 2024, while the state budget can only cover around 37 until 40% is around that. So I think this is very important that the remaining financing relies on state-owned enterprise and also the private sector. Mobilizing the external private capital through sustainable finance is very crucial to bridging the infrastructure financing gap. Next. This slide covering how Indonesia has declared its commitment to and agreed upon the Sustainable Development Goals to end poverty, fight inequality, and also reducing the impact of climate change. This commitment is very clear and outlining the enhanced nationally determined contribution atau ENDC, by setting an emission reduction target, and the target is around unconditional emission reduction of 31 until 32%, previously 29% by 2030. So I think at the international level, the implementation of this commitment has been translated into various policies in the context of development planning. The National Medium-Term Development Plan, or in bahasa we call it RPJMN, Rencana Jangka Panjang Menengah Nasional for 2020 or 2024, that has considered the Sustainable Development Goals as part of the objectives to be achieved. So this is in line with the presidential decree or the regulation from the presidential of the Republic of Indonesia, number 111 of 2022, concerning the implementation of achieving sustainable development goals. In the context of the fiscal policy, I think the Ministry of Finance has established several policy breakthrough and created the instrument with the orientation towards achieving sustainable goals and addressing climate change. For example, the Climate Change Fiscal Framework, CCFF, carbon pricing of economic value of carbon, and then thematic financial instrument through the Green Sukuk framework and SDG framework. So the initiative of it is aiming to establish the energy transition mechanism country platform. We call it ATM country platform. So Indonesia already setting up the ESG development milestones up to 2023 to integrate environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, we call it ESG aspect, into government support for infrastructure financing. This step is considered effective in promoting sustainable infrastructure development, which not only contributes positively to economic growth, but also reducing the potential negative impacts on the environment and society. Next. Yeah, now we are talking about the policy of net zero and the benefits of that. Okay, next slide. The adoption of net zero policy by government is increasing globally, and this also indicates that the commitment of governments in various countries to reduce greenhouse gas emission, thereby achieving a balance between emission produced and absorbed from the atmosphere and maintain the environmental sustainability for future generation. Indonesia's commitment to net zero policy is evident through the submission of update the NDC in 2022 and the launch, and Indonesia already launched the low carbon development initiative in 2019. These steps demonstrate that Indonesia is very serious in reducing the greenhouse gas emission and contributing to global efforts to address climate change. Indonesia also has increased its greenhouse gas emission reduction target from 29% unconditional to 41% with the international support. The low carbon development plan for Indonesia in 2019 integrated by National Development Planning Agency, we call it Bappenas, Republik Indonesia, into the National Medium Term Development Plan, or RPJMN 2020 until 2024. This including a series of policies and intervention to provide incentives for business and investors to transition to green economy. Next. The net zero strategy, in my opinion, this is an approach aiming at reducing a business greenhouse gas, or GHG, which is GHG emissions, and from GHG emission to net zero. So where the emission produced are offset or eliminated. And then by implementing this strategy, businesses can optimize the ESG platform or ESG value. So ESG strategy refers to the steps taken by businesses to consider ESG aspect in operational activities and decision making. In this context, the net zero strategy helps business enhance the environmental aspect of their ESG strategy by reducing the impact of GHG emission, which is greenhouse gas. Okay, next. And we can making some list that what is the benefits of the implementing ESG aspect in infrastructure project in Indonesia. From the commercial and economic aspect, we can highlight number one is the access to alternative financing and funding through clear communication to potential investors that the project is sustainable and resilient business opportunity, meeting their respective ESG standard. And then the second one is the possibility of project delays due to the unforeseen risk, including compliance risk when investors borrow from international lenders can be minimized. Lower total project costs and reduce potential cost overrun as ESG risks are identified and mitigated early run. So those kind of things, I believe that it can be reducing the likelihood of the performance violations and reputational risk during construction and operation. So the other way around, I think quite many lists from the commercial and economic aspect, like allocation budget, ESG impact can be making a more transparent process. And then we can calculate also the alternative of additional revenue opportunities. And beside that, we can also making some potential liability risk, like government action related to ESG. And as we know that Indonesia today is very aggressive and supporting the platform of the PPP projects, which is public-private partnership. In Indonesia, we call it KPBU, or Kerjasama Pemerintah and Badan Usaha. And the last one, I think, from the commercial and economic aspect, it is the opportunity to access green financing and lower insurance premiums. And the second aspect that we can making some list about the ESG itself, environmental, social, and governance. So we know that with using the ESG platform, we can fully identify and evaluate ESG risks and impacts. And we can also be promoting the compliance with national employment laws. And I think the other way to see from the ESG aspect is through the ESG we can avoiding or minimizing impact on resource efficiency and promoting more sustainable use of resources to help PPP projects. So the PPP project can be contribute to the global commitment for climate mitigation and resource efficiency and opportunities. Yeah, I think many others that we can discuss from the perspective of environmental, social, and governance aspect. Okay, next. And this is the last topic that we can discuss today about the how the use case of ESG project. So I will start with the Indonesia with the terminology of the green financing. And the green financing in Indonesia has been implemented, okay, next, in several business activities. But however, there is still a lack of established green standards required in assessment of implementing ESG aspects. So therefore, I think this is important to establish the green standards as a basis for sustainability or sustainable business and investment. And I believe that if we can making the green standard, it will help ensure the business and investment practices consider ESG platform. And with clear green standards, I think if the green standards already in place, the business players and investors can more easily access and understand the ESG performance of their projects, enabling the investor to take appropriate steps to improve and enhance their positive impact. And this will also increase public and market trust in sustainable business and investment in Indonesia, as well that we can promote the widespread adoption of more responsible and sustainable business practices. Okay, next. In this slide, we can discuss about the examples of projects that fall into the green and potentially green categories, which is divided into 7 sectors, namely low carbon and or sustainable transportation, renewable energy, sustainable water management, and sustainable waste management. These projects have characteristics that support carbon emission reduction, utilization of the renewable energy sources, efficient and sustainable water management, as well as waste reduction and environmentally friendly reuse. We can say in concrete examples may include the development of the environmentally friendly public transportation system, which is also installation of solar panels for the electricity generation, and how we can making innovative wastewater management and waste recycling programs to reduce the environmental pollution and minimize the negative impact on ecosystem and local communities. In practice, I think by implementing this project, it is expected to enhance the sustainability in various development aspects and providing positive benefits for the environment and society as a whole. Okay, next. And I will bring also the use case in aviation industry, since my background also is quite many improvement in development infrastructure in aviation industry. So I will start with the aviation industry in Indonesia has also begun the implementing of net zero policy by undertaking the energy conservation initiatives and developing the renewable energy at airports. So airport is very important, since the program of net zero emission is very important in the airport. And many airports in Indonesia already trying some energy conservation initiatives that had been implemented, including one, natural lighting at airport terminals. Second is installation of heat reflective film on windows. And the third one, we can say the implementation of building automation system. So building automation system is how we transform the manual system to the digital system in the terminal building in the airport. And also airport using the photocell sensors for lighting efficiency, and installation of escalator sensors, which is is a very efficient in energy consumption. And then the last one, we can replace of the conventional light bulbs with the LED lights. And some airport also in Indonesia already using the renewable energy, trying with the photocell of the sun energy. We believe as the airport operator, by implementing these measures, this is expected that energy consumption in the airport can be significantly reduced, which is in turn, it will help achieving the net zero targets and reducing the environmental impact of aviation operations. Next. In this slide also, I will bring the use case of the implementation of PPP or public-private partnership for the airport operatorship initiatives. So I can say that the public-private partnership or PPP in the context of the airport operatorship is a strategic collaboration between the public sector, government, and also the private sector of the companies or corporation from outside the country to manage, operate, and also develop the airport facilities. In this framework, the government typically retains ownership at the airport asset. So this is not selling the asset, but mostly is leasing the asset actually, and sets strategic policy while the private sector is involved in day-to-day operational management, investment, and also making additional the infrastructure development. When I was assigned as the CEO of AP2, I think we are laying out the strategy of our strategic partnership with the outside operator outside the country, which is, we call it the 3E strategy. The first E is expansion. Expansion means we need to collaborate with regional and international strategic partners, will enhance the AP2 or Angkasa Pura II, the ability to compete with global players. The second E is the expertise sharing, which is the strategic partners can also contribute by providing best practice knowledge to Angkasa Pura II or AP2 as the airport operator for developing economic activities and increase the possibility for non-aeronautical commercial areas at the airport and their surroundings area of the airport itself. And the third E or the second E strategy is equity partnership. So the development for the airport in our use case is Kuala Namu Airport in Medan, is increasing the airport capacity and service quality requires funding support from from the strategic partners. So thereby maximizing the value of Kuala Namu Airport of the AP2. So the last slide that our use case, next slide. Yeah, I can say that in terms of the strategic objectives of Kuala Namu itself, which is the area of the airport infrastructure development, and the second one is how we can positioning is the international hub, and the other way around is we also develop the AeroCity based on commercial area and making Kuala Namu Airport as the logistic hub for western part of the Indonesia. So I think those are some use cases that I bring in my presentation today. So again, to Trilogi University, I'm very thank you for this opportunity to join in your international seminars and conference. Thank you. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Awal. It's very beneficial insights for us in order for us to implement the sustainability life. You have to look at the policy, the financing, also the infrastructure behind it. Right? Kenapa saya deg-degan ya kalau sama Pak Awal ya? I'm a bit nervous with Pak Awal because Pak Awal was my husband's previous boss. Okay. Because Pak Awal is going to have to attend an important meeting, I think we go directly to the question and answer for Pak Awal. Two questions only, and please do it very quickly. Yeah, Adit. First question, second question. Yeah. Only two only. Pak.
It's better.
Yeah. But quickly. Adit, Question number 1.
Okay. Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Paul, for the material. It's so interesting. My name is Aditya Fadilaska, and I want to ask you a question. With the way that corporate in Indonesia operate nowadays, do you think Indonesia achieve its goals in SDGs? How do you think can enforce the corporation to comply with the SDGs requirement? Thank you.
Did you get the question, Powell?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's the first question. How corporates should do, what to enforce them for Indonesia to achieve the SDGs goals. Second question will be who? Quickly, please. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
My name is Atal Akmal. My question is, what initiative are insurance companies undertaking to engage with stakeholders, including investor, policyholder, regulators, and the broader community on ESG-related issues?
You get the question, Powell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The question, the second question is coming from.
What's your name?
After Adit, what is your name?
Akmal.
Akmal.
Okay. So Adit and Akmal. So thank you very much for the question of the my presentation. So with the Adit question, I think to make it simple, how the corporate can be operate in the platform of ESG and how the corporate can comply with the SDG platform itself also. I think we can make it simple with the 3C terminology. What is the 3C actually? So the first C is commitment. Since we are already ratification of the SDG and ESG as the international standard, I think the very important things for the government and also all the stakeholders in Indonesia is the commitment. How we can making the global standard, and the commitment is we are focused also with the scenario of the international scenario for the ESG and the SDG itself. So that is the first C. The second C is how the government and all the stakeholders can communicate with the clear direction. And since the first C is the commitment is already making into the action, so communication through the stakeholders is a very important and supporting by the regulation. So laws and regulation, it is also giving best support for the implementation, how the corporate can be operate with the proper way. And the third C, I think we can use the C of creativity, because the creativity, since the aspect of, let's say, the infrastructure, we know we have it's quite big burden in budget fiscal of the Republic of the Indonesia, I think. So through the creativity, which is how we can financing some project, not with our money, but using the investors' money. So creative financing and supporting with the best laws and the regulation of itself, I think it is giving us and guiding us also how the corporate can operate with the ESG platform and comply to the SDG standards. So that is the question, I think, for the first question. And the question from Akmal about how the corporate strategy about and concerning the ESG related. I'm bringing my use case when I was in charge in AP2, I think. So without belief of the ESG standard and without belief of the platform of SDG can be giving the best opportunity and best sustainability for the corporate, I think there is only talks, not action. So the best action is the best way to choose that we can collaborate with the global standards. So what is Angkasa Pura II or AP2 doing at that time? We are making a master plan for the renewable energy. So the renewable energy master plan from the initiative of AP2 itself without any instruction from kementerian or lembaga or any government agency, we making by ourselves. So what is the impact of the renewable energy master plan? The impact is we need to do with the plan consistently. So from the renewable energy master plan, we start to build the renewable energy ecosystem in the airport. We start with 2020 during pandemic. During pandemic, the capability of our capex or capital expenditure is very low, but we start with the small initiative of setting up the renewable energy infrastructure through the photovoltaic or energy cells in the roof top of the airport. So at that time, we start a collaboration with the PLN or listrik negara, perusahaan listrik negara to start to build the new ecosystem for the photocell energy system, which is renewable energy, starting only with 290 kilowatt peak. So 290 kilowatt peak is very small actually for the airport, but we can start with the start small, but we think with the big things. So start small, big things, and consistent to implementing the concept in our master plan and making continuously building through the plan until 2028. So until 2028, we believe that we can install at least 6 megawatts. I repeat it, 6 megawatts, which is big for 20 airports around western part of Indonesia, which is managed by Angkasa Pura II or AP2. Thank you very much. That is the question of Akmal. Then I answer of this question.
So Adit, there will be 3 C's. You remember what the 3 C's are? Commitment, communication, and creativity. That's next exam problems. Pawal, for your being here today. I think I go to the next presenter now. Thank you very much once again. Next year you're coming again to Trilogi, ya Pawal. Let's give big applause for Dr. Mohamad Awal.
Ibu Anis, please excuse for a moment. We are going to give the e-certificate for
E-certificate.
Pawal. Yes.
Okay.
So we would like to invite Ibu Ati to the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Awaluddin, for your presentation. And this is.
Thank you very much, Bu Ati.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Let's once again give big applause to Bapak Dr. Mohamad Awaludin. For the last but certainly not least presenter, Professor Pawan Adhikari. Allow me to read the curriculum vitae of Professor Pawan Adhikari. Professor Pawan Adhikari is a senior lecturer in Accounting, University of Essex, United Kingdom. He got his PhD in Business Administration Accounting, Business School, North University, Norway, and Business Administration exchange student from overseas program from Hosei University, Tokyo, Japan. He presently is a professor of accounting in University of Essex, UK, reader in Accounting, University of Essex, UK, senior lecturer in Accounting, University of Essex, UK, lecturer in Accounting, and postdoc associate professor and academic tutor, North University, Norway. Lots of his publications, some of them are reproduction of efficiency through management accounting practices, socioeconomic, environmental and human consequences of NPM reforms, financial accountability and management, adoption of the international public sector accounting standard in emerging economy and low-income countries, structured literature review journals of public budgeting, accounting, and financial management, and others. Professor Pawan, how are you?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your generous introduction. Thank you very much.
I believe we've met before, Prof. Pawan, in 2020, late 2020, when you were one of the presenter in CAAGA conference, also done online in 2020. You might be.
Yeah, good to see you again. Thank you so much for the invitation.
So, Professor Pawan, you have 20 to 25 minutes for your presentations, and they will be followed with questions and answer. Maybe three or four questions.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my slides for. Yeah, it's always. Yeah, so thank you very much for the invitation again. And as you know, my name is Pawan Adhikari. I work as a professor at Essex University, and I'm also the director of our Essex Accounting Center. So basically, my research is within public sector accounting and accountability, and I am focusing mainly on developing country context. So today I'll try to explain about how the public sector accounting or accountability, at least how our thinking about public sector accounting and accountability has been changing in this ESG era. Can I go to next slide, please? Yeah. So so this is the outline of my presentation. First, my idea is to provide you some understanding what is public sector accounting, or how the research started in public sector accounting, and then I will talk about the key issues in public sector accounting. Basically, we're still talking about reforms. We talk about improving reporting, and by using this private sector based accounting, like so-called accrual accounting, and also I will talk about how the whole idea of public sector accounting has been established or working in developing country context, means how this public sector accounting has been linked to development, and I will show you some of the consequences of the reforms undertaken by different developing countries. And at the end, I have some kind of overview how our idea about public sector accounting has been changing in this era of ESG. Maybe next slide, please. So basically, when you talk about public sector accounting, it was not until 70s or 80s we used the term public sector. Of course, if you see the research and accounting like 70s or 80s, I think that was the time when our idea or concept of accounting started to change. Before, we thought accounting just as a technology. We were thinking more from the functionalistic viewpoint. But from 1970s or 80s, there were scholars like Hopwood or Miller. They tried to study accounting in the wider context. the argument was accounting is a social and institutional practice because it will affect the life of people. It will affect the life, the way societies function. And but this paper by this scholar called Lapsley, and in 1988 he mentioned there were very few published work on public sector accounting, but in the last 2 or 3 decades we saw or we witnessed a rise in the number of research. There's a lot of paper published in the last 2 or 3 years. Basically after the start of new public management, and there were paper about accounting reform, there were paper about budgeting or reporting, performance management, and we also saw how this public sector has become a distinct field within the mainstream accounting. For instance, we have now our own niche journal like Finance Accountability and Management, Journal of Public Budgeting, Accounting and Financial Management. We have our societies like SHIGAR or IRSPM, and we have our own public sector specific conferences like EIASM or SHIGAR workshop, etc. So this is how this field developed in the last 2 or 3 decades. But now after the pandemic, because our way of thinking public sector has been changing, because public sector is very important in a sense, or if you go to every countries, almost 40 to 60% of GDP has been covered by public sector. There are public procurement, there are public debt, there are public deficit, there are so many kind of things in which the government involved, and we are not aware of the consequences. So in a sense, it's a very important field. But in the whole idea is that in the last 2 or 3 decades, our focus has been on reporting. We try to adapt ideas, principles, values from the private sector. We try to improve the financial reporting of the government and public sector entities. But that is probably not bad, but we miss several other important aspects of public sector. The idea is that we need to think how public sector accounting can be used in the wider context. Let's say, how can we address the problem of climate change through public sector accounting? How can we help government develop financial resilience using public sector accounting? How can we think of the co-production, like delivering public services through co-production, and how accounting or how public sector accounting can be used in the process? So now in the last few years, we have been thinking how public sector accounting can be used differently, or how it can be used to improve the lives and livelihoods of people. Can you go next slide, please? Yeah. So of course, this is the kind of important why public sector accounting is important. We say it's very important because it is central to kind of realizing efficiency and effectiveness in resource mobilization and service delivery. At the wider level, this accounting is kind of linked to governance. We say if by restoring good accounting, we can improve governance, we can improve accountability, and when there's a good governance, there's a good accountability and transparency, it will help countries to grow. Means it is kind of directly or somehow connected to the economic growth of countries. And as I mentioned before, in the last few years, our focus has been on changing the accounting system at the government and at the public sector entities. Like before, like governments, they were using cash accounting, and the idea was that cash accounting was not adequate, sufficient in today's era. So the idea is that we need to provide more information about government performance. We need more information about sustainability. We need to provide more information about this long-term consequences of public service delivery. So that can be achieved by introducing accrual accounting. So that was the idea in the last 2 or 3 decades. Can you go to the next slide, please? And also, this is the paper. In this slide, I have shown how the importance of public sector accounting has increased over the year in terms of research. For instance, we have now a lot of literature review. They are trying to study what kind of issues or like things have been covered in the last few years. For instance, we have this literature review by Broadbent and Guthrie. 1992-2008. More recently, there's a literature review by Lapsley and Miller. They tried to review the paper published in 4 leading journals. And there's a paper review by Funk and Carlson. More recently, with Van Helden, we have done also the paper, the review of paper published in Journal of Accounting, Emerging Economy. And there's also paper review by this Posler. They try to see the adoption of IPSAS in developing countries and what kind of papers have been published about IPSAS and what kind of issue they have raised. So the idea of this slide is to provide you some insight of why the sector is kind of growing. The sector, public sector, it's becoming increasingly kind of interesting. It has drawn the attention of scholars, it has drawn the attention of policymakers, it has drawn the attention of practitioners, and become increasingly important. Maybe next slide, please. Yeah, so in this slides, I've tried to show why let's say policymakers or why the practitioners, standard setters are advocating for the need for accounting change, because the idea is that the government or public sector entities should adopt accrual accounting, and they say there are several benefits if they reform the accounting from cash to accrual accounting. For instance, by adopting accrual accounting, they can improve the transparency in resource allocation. It would be possible to identify the full cost of government activities. It will help to analyze government financial position and performance. And at the same time, it will provide some kind of assurance of long-term sustainability of the government. And in 2016, with a colleague, we tried to see how the reforms are taking place in OECD countries. And then based on our research, we tried to categorize this OECD member countries into different groups based on the stages in which they were in terms of adapting accrual or in terms of adapting accounting reforms. For instance, there are some countries like Australia, New Zealand, or the UK where we see the government has adapted accrual accounting both for reporting and for budgeting. And there are some other countries, like for instance, like many European countries, like even like Belgium, Canada, Slovakia, Spain, many others like Denmark. If you see the reforms in these countries, they have adapted accrual accounting or accrual principle for reporting, but they still follow many like cash, or they still follow cash-based budgeting, or the idea is that accrual accounting hasn't been implemented fully. And there are some other countries like Germany or like even Greece or Japan where we see still the focus, they try to, they have adapted only certain elements of accrual accounting. Otherwise, they still follow cash-based accounting. So the whole idea that because the countries are at different stages in terms of reforms, some countries have adapted kind of more sophisticated, advanced reform in public sector accounting because they follow business principle, both for accounting, budgeting, reporting. While there are many other countries, they try to adapt some elements of reforms, but they're still based on cash. Next slide, please. And of course, like then when we see the context in developing countries, it's also like including Indonesia, like Thailand, India, they're all trying to reform the accounting system. And then like there are many papers actually, they try to question the reform. Because we see a lot of papers kind of criticizing or questioning the reforms or the adoption of accrual accounting, and they argue that many of the benefits claimed have been overstated because those reforms are technically kind of sophisticated. It requires more resources, expertise, and many developing countries are lacking those kind of expertise, resources. And of course, some research argue that the public and the private sector is very different. So their objectives are different. So it's not rational for public sector entities to adapt the ideas or practices from the private sector. And there are also some paper they are claiming, okay, let's talk about the United UK government. They have changed the accounting system. They develop very comprehensive financial statement. They show the performance, like financial position of the UK government. They have balances, they have profit and loss statement, but they don't have users because if you see the financial statements of the UK government, it's very comprehensive. They provide all details, but they are arguing that there are very few people, very few stakeholders are using those statements. So they are using resources, they are using money, but the outputs haven't been used as expected. And there are also some other studies saying, okay, like in many developing countries in Africa, where they try to adapt reforms, but that actually those reforms were not linked or not supported or not fit in the local context. And instead of improving governance and accountability, those reforms provided some kind of space for corruption. So there are some papers talking about reforms in Nigeria, Ghana, or many other African countries, where they say, okay, the reforms have been imposed, but instead of improving things are getting more worse, because it provided some politicians or some other stakeholders, or it created space for the corruption. Next slide, please. And in the context of developing countries, of course, there is a need to improve reform and like a change accounting. But at the same time, we try to study why the many developing countries are trying to adapt the reform which do not fit in the local context. And then there are some researchers, they argue that, okay, this is very much driven by international organization. And they have identified, okay, for international organization, they have followed three kind of discourse, because in the 70s and 80s, the international organization were promoting the discourse or logic that state is the key player in achieving development. And they say, okay, to achieve development, the state should follow like cash accounting. They need to pursue the budgeting or this planning, etc. So they try to connect the development with the public sector accounting reform. The idea was that if through initiating public sector accounting reforms or improving the overall functioning of public finance and management, a country can achieve development. And then in 1980, they were saying, okay, now the state cannot lead the development. It's the market. The market can, because the state should allow market to function freely, and that will enable to achieve development. So to get the market values principle, countries or the governments are required to follow like market-based principle, for instance, accrual accounting. So those kind of concepts. So it means it's very much driven by the international organization. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned, because they had this kind of three kind of development discourse, and each development discourse has been connected to this accounting. For instance, in 1960 or 70, they were claiming state like a state-led development, which state is the key player in achieving development. So they were promoting cash accounting, program budgeting. From 1980s, they were promoting, okay, market is the one that can lead to the development. So they were promoting market-based principles and ideas, like for instance, they were forcing or they were encouraging countries to adapt accrual accounting, integrated reporting, or they were like pay for assessment, etc. And more recently, we see, okay, what is the idea then? They are propagating a localized-led idea. It means the idea is that, okay, for the central government level, countries or the governments are still required to follow market-based logic. It means they have to adapt accrual accounting, they have to adapt this long-term budgeting, they have to adapt performance reporting. But at the local level, they need to, because it's very important to involve the grassroots level people in the development process. So what they are saying is that it's very important for techniques, accounting techniques, such like participatory budgeting or gender budgeting or climate reporting. Those things are very important at the local level. So they are trying to propagate new development discourse where they are saying, okay, this still market-based logic still work, at the central government level, but when you go to local level, there should be some kind of more innovative accounting technology, like we need to promote participatory budgeting, gender budgeting, etc. So these are the discourses of international organization, and the idea is that that discourse have influenced many developing countries to reform the accounting or to adapt new accounting technologies. New slide, please. And then, yeah, because so the idea is what the research showed, and then we try to see that how this development discourse working in developing country. And in 2021, Van Helden, a paper by Van Helden, it argued that still the whole reform logic is being driven by NPM. And even in China, where they claim that neoliberal ideals of efficiency is not accepted in China, but still they try to promote those kind of rationals through accounting, because they also, like, even in China, they think they argue that accurate accounting is important, although accurate accounting is meant to promote efficiency, or although it is meant to promote neoliberal ideas. So it means still the whole reforms in developing countries are influenced by this market-led development discourses. And then more recently, there are more the increasing number of research that they are expressing concern that now it's time to shift or to abandon those development discourse, because we need to now more focus on how the public sector accounting can be useful to improve the life and livelihoods of people. We need to focus more on this publicness, or we need to focus more on public value rather than just changing the reporting or just adapting the business-led principle.
Recording stopped.
Can we move to next slide, please? So of course, that doesn't mean that all public sector accounting reforms are bad, because there are a lot of paper that shows because public sector reforms have led to improvement in many aspects. For instance, like this paper by Tawi and Shuravan, they argue that accurate accounting or IPSAS is significantly associated with international financing and foreign aid, although because it may help to get foreign aid and support. So in a sense, it's not completely bad. Also, like similar claims relating to the significance of public financial management reform in preventing corruption and improving transparency, governance, and accountability are mentioned in the report or the study facilitated by international organizations like World Bank, ADB, PayPal, because they all have mentioned it's very important. Those reforms are very important. So it means the whole idea is that it's not that public sector accounting reforms are bad and they will bad in all contexts. But can you go new slide, please? But the thing is, of course, we need to the whole idea. What the research shows that those reforms may not be bad, but the idea is that those reforms should fit in the local context. So when
Recording in progress.
When the reforms are not fitting in the local context, it may result in unintended consequences, and that is already evident in number of papers. For instance, in South Asia, we see the governments, like some government, they try to change their accounting from cash to accrual, but they found it's very sophisticated, very technical, and they move back to cash basis accounting again by adapting the cash based IPSAS. Also, in some countries like Sri Lanka, we see there's a lot of, because they started adapting accounting standards in 2000, at the beginning of 2000, but still the process is ongoing. So it means there's a delays in terms of implementing reform. And in some countries, like in Bangladesh, we see that it has created some kind of conflict or tension between private sector accounting bodies and this government entities. And even in India, we can say IPSAS adoption in India is likely to be delayed for 10 to 12 years due to the requirements of valuation of assets and liabilities when preparing the opening balance sheet. So you see this is all the reforms when is kind of, there are a lot of different types of unintended consequences have been experienced when the reforms are implemented at the country level. Next slide, please. and those kind of consequences are evident in other contexts also, like for Latin America, because there's a large number of countries in Latin America, they have changed the accounting, they have adapted IPSA, accrual-based IPSAS and accrual accounting. But the more recent studies show that in many countries, those adaptations have been more partial or ceremonial, because they are trying to maybe kind of copying each other, but the actual result or actual benefits haven't been achieved in Latin America. And if you next slide, please. The same thing in Asia Pacific, even in Indonesia, there are papers about reforms, and there are argument that governments are still using cash-based budget. There's accurate reporting, but the whole focus of politicians or government is still on cash-based budgeting. So despite the reform, they haven't moved beyond this cash thinking. And in Africa, there's even a big problem, because it has created some kind of social problem, because in the name of reforms, there are a lot of the politicians or the stakeholders are engaged in promoting corruption. So you see the reforms are not bad, or these reforms are important, but these reforms are not corresponding the local context, and this has resulted in different types of unintended consequences. So this more recently, for instance, research showed the international organizations and donors have failed to recognize the complex institutional and political context within Africa, and paid little attention to local embedded agency and resistance, while imposing Western-based accurate accounting and IPSAS. And also the other studies show that almost 70% of IPSAS reform in emerging and low-income countries have either failed to reach the confirmation stage, or the alleged confirmation has been manipulated. Like we study about Tanzania and like a local government, and what they're saying, because they don't have auditors, like professional auditors or professional accountants. So whatever the report is prepared, the auditors are just stamping, okay, this is IPSAS compliance, without monitoring, without checking. So these are the things happening in the name of reform. Can you go next slide, please? And also same thing I mentioned about the localized list development, but now the focus is at the local level, and the World Bank alone has sanctioned or allocated almost 85 billion in the last few years. And the idea is that development can be achieved through public participation. So the focus now is at the grassroots level, and they are presenting for instance, the idea that accounting should be used as a tool for promoting inclusiveness, emancipation. Accounting should be used to build trust. It should be used to reinvent democracy. So it's very important for local government to restore or to practice participative budgeting. It's very important to have gender budgeting. It's very important to have climate code and framework. So those things have been propagated. But if you see the research, there are mixed results. Of course, this participative budgeting, climate codes, or gender budgeting are working in some contexts, but in other contexts, we see they are not working as intended. For instance, like in many cases, like this elite or educated or politicians are capturing the very idea of participatory budgeting. We see that people are not interested to participate because they are fighting with the cost of living. They are fighting with different personal care kind of participation, and even in some cases people are interested to participate, but the allocation for this budget allocation is so small that it won't change their life. No, they say they go and participate in this the allocation of budgeting at the local development, but the amount of budget is so small that won't change their life. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are some also, like many research, they have outlined, okay, for if a government or local government, or if any public sector entity, they wish to adapt technology like participatory budgeting, or they want to promote co-production, there are certain requirements which are to be fulfilled. For instance, like they should have a civil society that is willing to participate. There's a political support is very important, and also support, like because there should be sufficient financial resources. For instance, representation and inclusion in participatory budgeting process have also remained key issues, especially in non-democratic and poor societies, given the existing power hierarchies in decision making. Because although the participants, because the social structure is very different, and like in some cases, even the people are asked to participate in the budgeting process. There is cultural issue, there are structural issue, there are gender issue that prevent people to participate. So the idea is that we need to think the wider context. It's not just imposing reform in a particular context. If we wish that reform to work out, or so the people may get benefit of reform only if that reform are implemented by considering the local context. That is the whole idea. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think these are some of the example of local context. Like for instance, we study Nepal, and then we say like there are different people involved in government accounting reform, but they didn't pay attention to accountants, government accountants. So actually government accountants are the key players who should play an important role in reform. So that important players were marginalized. All other stakeholders were very active, like auditors were active, international organizations were active, politicians were also supportive, but they don't pay attention to government accounting. So the reform fell because the reform should be implemented by government accountants. So the idea is that if they wish to reform to be successful, it's very important to identify who are the key player and to help them develop competence and expertise. So without going to the key issue, the reform won't be successful. And we went to Africa and studied like 10, 11 countries. And they say, because we found that there are some countries which have already some good accounting practice, like local practices, because they are trying to develop financial statement on timely basis. They are trying to get audited of the financial statement. But what is happening is instead of promoting those local practices and building reform on those practices, they are just trying to adapt this very comprehensive, sophisticated reform, and the whole system is not working out. Next place, please. So the idea is that it one size fit all application of accounting IPSAS, it's not working. So because the idea we should not blame the accounting system. Accounting system per se should not be blamed. So it's not that accounting system is bad or reforms or this accounting is bad and it's not implementing. So we should not blame the accounting system, but the failure occurs when the systems are imposed in a context where the necessary education, training, infrastructure, and commitment to support is lacking. So careful analysis of socio-political feasibility, political interest, and other local and societal effects should be undertaken prior to implementing large-scale accounting reform. Next slide, please. But still, so coming back, so how things are changing. So it's not that everything has been bad in public sector accounting. As we see, of course, in the last decade, if we have to analyze the things happened in the last decade, we see, okay, it is very good because now we have more publication on public sector accounting. Scholars are using different theories. Scholars are using mixed method. There's because now we have our learned societies, we have Association SIGAR, we have IRSPM, we have our own journal. So it's because now we can see even the practitioner, like International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board, they have started developing this sustainability reporting. They are trying to collaborate with researchers. They are trying to collaborate with stakeholders. So in a sense, there are some improvement. So and increasing acceptance of the altering role. So we can see now the changes in the way public sector accounting has been taught. It's changing because we see that we see more collaboration between practitioners and researchers. We see like the standard setting, developing accounting standard and sustainability. So those things are kind of improvement. Next slide, please.
Just to remind you, Prof. Awan, you still have only 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I just tried to summarize. So now, okay, now we have moved to the ES0. So what has been changing now? So now the debate. If you go to more recent papers, more recent research, and you see there's a change in the debate. The debate is that debate concerns widening the scope of public sector accounting. So how it can be widened by because there are different scholars proposing different concepts. For example, we go to the work of Staccoloni and she talk about publicness. There are other scholars like Grossi or like even Staccoloni, they talk about creating public values. And then they argue that this house it's very important for us to move beyond just we just don't need to focus only on reporting. We need to go beyond and think how public sector or how public value can be created. So what is meant by public value then? By using the term public value, we are meaning how public sector accounting can be used to create fair society, how public sector accounting can help kind of widen the accessibility of service, how public sector accounting can be used to promote sustainability, or how it can be used to promote accountability of wider stakeholder. And also there are idea that public sector accounting should be more grassroots oriented. It should promote emancipation. It should promote empowerment, engagement, or overall, it should be used for more humanizing purpose. It's not just reporting or just performance. It should be used more like for this to ease the life and livelihood of people. And also they argue that because in the past, when we do public sector accounting research, we have been very technical. And many researchers argue that public sector is very closely connected to public administration, public management. So we need to promote more interdisciplinary research, not just to focus on technical aspect of accounting, but we can see the development taking place in public administration, public policy, societal issues, and then connect that thing with public sector accounting. Next slide, please. So the whole, yeah, exactly. So, then also, I think many research, they are trying to challenge the notion of development. The idea that the international organization, donors, or the internet, in the past, they claim that development can be achieved by improving public sector accounting or by instigating public sector accounting reform. So the idea is that it's not that development will be achieved by improving accounting or budgeting or reporting, because when we talk of the term development, it should not be based on some context. Let's say when we talk about development, we are not talking about developing countries anymore. We are talking about development in climate change reporting. We are talking about development in resilience. We are talking about development in public value creation. So the idea is that we should not use the term development to refer to poor countries and then to say, okay, these countries will develop by improving the accounting. That is a very old concept. The emerging idea is that, okay, development is not a context-specific thing. It should be more as a content, because let's say in the UK, we are poor in terms of climate reporting. We don't have the regulations for climate reporting. So those things should be a matter of concern. So now the researchers are challenging the notion of development. They are challenging the notion of this objective of public sector accounting. Next slide, please. And the way forward is that, okay, how this, and some researchers argue that it's very important for us to escape from the mindset of new public management, and then we need to more focus, we need to develop public sector account in a way that will be more feasible or more useful in the life of people. For this, we need to embrace wider perspective. Also, we need to promote a strong collaboration and dialogue between accounting profession practitioners and standard setter, because they all be working in the separate way. In the standard setting, they are developing standard setter. Accounting practitioners, they have their own idea, and accounting researchers, we have our own idea. So there's a kind of link between these three or multiple groups. And at the same time, most important thing is promoting accounting education and professionalization, because in public sector accounting, we still lack education, because in the university or school level, there's a very limited courses in public sector accounting across countries. So we need to change that tradition. Yeah, I think that's all. No? Maybe last slide, maybe. Yeah, so the conclusion is that, of course, I think it's the same, more or less same thing, because we need to change the way we think about public sector accounting. We need to change the way we have understood the notion of development. And then, of course, we need to incorporate wider approaches to development and explore the role what public sector accounting can play in attaining these development issues. Yeah. And last slide, please. Yeah, so I think, of course, we have this because if you are interested, we have this call of paper in Journal of Public Budgeting, Accounting and Management. There's a call for paper and this climate change accounting, reporting and accountability responses by government, not-for-profit organization and charities. So if you would like to submit paper, or if you would like us to, please contact us. Of course, because we are happy to provide you initial comments before you submit to the journals, and that may help you improve the quality. Yeah, that's all. Thank you yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you so
Pawan.
much.
Big applause for Dr. Pawan. What a complete and interesting discussion we have today. From 1 o'clock this afternoon, we start from the marketing and branding public relation point of view, and then go to the higher education point of view. Pawa was talking about from the industrial and corporate point of view, and this, last but not least, on the public sector accounting point of view. I believe there are some questions here. I limit it into 2 questions only. 2 questions. Yeah. Of course, these questions coming from the accounting students here from Universitas Trilogi. First question.
Hello, Prof. Pawan. I'm Andin from Trilogi University. I have a question from your presentation. In the standard PSA, which was originally a cash basis and accrual basis, what is the correlation between this change and the achievement of ESG in the PSA? Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much for the question. That's a very interesting question, because the whole idea was when IFAC started developing this standard, the idea was that all countries should go to accrual accounting and they should adapt accrual-based standard. But that didn't work out, no, because they identify it's very technical. It requires research, it requires infrastructure. So then later, I think 2010-11, they said, okay, we'll try to simplify the reform process. Simplifying means we will develop the cash basis IPSAS, and for some country, like for these developing countries, many developing countries that do not have resources to adapt accrual accounting, they can start the reform by adapting cash basis IPSAS, and over the time they can change to accrual accounting. So I think that is the correlation. They say, for instance, we study reform in South Asia, especially in Nepal, and then in Nepal, I think this the government tried to implement accrual accounting from 1980s, but it was not successful. So in 2000, at the beginning of 2000, the World Bank came and said, okay, it's very difficult for the country to adapt accrual accounting at the moment. So they can start the reform by adapting cash basis IPSAS, and in this that would allow them to develop competence, that would allow them to have infrastructure that is required for accrual accounting, and over the year they can move toward accrual accounting. So that is the correlation. But then when it comes to ESG, I don't think they are big, because now this IPSAS, they are developing this sustainability reporting. Before, because there's a lot of lobbying, because they were focusing on this translating IFRS into public sector. The idea was, okay, there's a revenue, there's a lease, there's a financial instrument. All those standards have been translated into IPSAS. But there was a lack of this standards focusing on this environment, climate change, and sustainability. So there were a lot of lobbying to international standards and setting board, and they agreed to develop the standard for sustainability reporting. And they have, and within that reporting, they have identified 3 components, and one component of I don't remember all this component, but one component is climate reporting. So I think they are moving now. They are trying to see how the standards should be connected to sustainability reporting. But I think still in kind of work in progress. We don't have any particular standard on that. But now the concerns or focus is on ESG.
Thank you, Prof. Pawan.
Thank you, Prof. Pawan. Last question from Nilza.
Hello, Prof. Pawan. My name is Nilza Hayati Nufus. I'm a student at Trilogi University, and I'm majoring in accountancy. I want to ask one question for you. So the question is, what is the role of PSA in the UK in supporting the implementation of ESG and the form of synergy with private companies? Thank you.
Yeah, like in the UK, we have this kind of, like in the UK, we have this strategy that there's a climate, there's a UK government has set the strategy like for 2021, the sustainability, and 2025. And then they are saying, okay, now I think the focus is on more on report. Of course, this greenhouse gas effect, all these things are there, but the government is trying to connect the whole accounting with that strategy, how the accounting can play a role in probably achieving this climate goal. No? But still, I think the UK following very much this international trend, like because we are following ISP and then IFAC in terms of accounting standards. So the standards we have very much similar. So it's not mandatory regulations and not mandatory standards, but there's a UK based local regulations guiding this ESG reporting for the government. Then probably you can get more information, because if you go to the SM Treasury, there's a His Majesty Treasury, there's a website, and in that website you will find the consolidated statement of the UK government, where you can get more information about how they are dealing with this matter.
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you. There's one last question in the Zoom from Imam, Universitas Trilogi. Prof. Pawan, would the PSA include the possibility of ESG-based disclosures? Are these already in place or possibly in the public sector? Would they be mandatory or voluntary?
Yeah, I think it's still voluntary, because I think it probably to get more about this, you probably, if you go to website of International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board, and then there is you will find sustainability reporting. I mean, it tells us how they are developing this requirement standard for the sustainability, and you see what are the key elements there. So I think still kind of voluntary, not mandatory, but in the course of time it will be mandatory. So I think the work has begun, because it was this climate change or sustainability things were kind of neglected in the public sector for a long time. But now it's because of the lobbying of stakeholders. Now the standard setters, also government, they are developing regulations. And those regulations, like one example is this IPSAS-based sustainability reporting. But still, many of the requirements, many of these things are voluntary. They're still not mandatory, because the problem is also where they're like many public sector entities, they prepare this ESG or the sustainability reporting, but we also don't have auditing to identify whether they are actually complying with the regulations or not. Right? That is also a problem. No? So in a sense, if you see the report of UK government or even by other government, you may find that they are complying with the requirement, but actual compliance can be questions, because there's still not a mechanism, structure is well developed. So we don't, but the thing is, those things are now on focus concern. So I think we are developing that mechanism, that structure, so we can ensure those things are kind of reported, those things accounted for. But still, I think in the process, yeah.
Okay, I hope this answered the Pak Imam's question. And I think that's the end of our session, Prof. Pawan. Once again, I thank you for your being here and your presentations. Let us give big applause to Prof. Pawan once more time. And one big applause for the audiences who are very well this afternoon. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Before we finish our session today, we would like to invite our Dean, Ibu Ati Herawati, to be on the stage to give the e-certificate to our speaker today.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Pawan Adhikari, for your presentation today. This is certificate for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Once again, please big applause for our speaker today, Professor Pawan Adhikari. Thank you very much, sir. And
Thank you so
also,
much. Thank you.
Ibu
Thank
Ati,
you.
for our moderator today. Please, to be on the stage, Dr. Anis Lastiati. The certificate will be given from our Dean. Thank you so much, Ibu Anis Lastiati, for our moderator today. And Ibu Ati, please stay on the stage. Would you please to close our session today? Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would say thank you for all participants for this seminar, especially to committee. And I hope we will see in next year this event annual. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Ati. Ibu Ati, would you please still stay on the stage with me, and all the participants please stay in the room today, and also for the participants in the Zoom, because today we are going to announce the best paper for national and international National Conference on Accounting and Fraud Auditing. And this will be announced by our Dean, Ibu Dr. Ati Herawati. Ibu Ati, please. Sudah bisa ditayangkan? As we all know that we have received so many papers that it is very challenging for the panelists to choose which one are the best for the national. Please, Ibu Ati.
Okay, the best paper. Oke, best paper urutan 10 ini ya. Oke. Pengukuran kinerja industri kecantikan menggunakan model SCOR oleh Farel Ari Yuwana, Akbar Maulana Ramadan, Fajar Dermawan, dan Anis Lastiati. Selamat. Dengan keahlian keuangan Direktur sebagai variabel moderasi oleh Sekar Natasha Prameswari Novita Imam Nur Cahyo Budi. Selamat. Best paper 8, analisis kinerja rasio cabang Kota Tangerang dengan Skatcode oleh Endah Putria Dewiyati, Yasmin Fitria, Dian Aldaris, dan Leli Dahlia. Selamat Bu Leli.
Okay, best paper 7 goes to
Best paper ke-7 diberikan pada pengembangan pedoman budgeting untuk mengoptimalkan manajemen keuangan proyek menggunakan NRP Next Studi pada perusahaan integrator sistem oleh Aditya Fadila Aska dan Nurul Aisyah Rahmawati. Selamat Bu Nurul.
Okay, the next one. Best paper 6 goes to
Dan perusahaan dapat memoderasi hubungan CKPN, BOPO, dan NPL terhadap kinerja keuangan bank oleh Prasetya Sakti dan Nurul Aisyah Ratmawati. Selamat Pak Jaya dan Mbak Nurul untuk best paper yang ke-6. Ya, ini MM.
next one, best paper 5 goes to
Best paper 5 diberikan kepada pengaruh langsung dan tidak langsung pajak melalui transfer pricing oleh Sasya Nurul Aisyah Rahmawati. Selamat Sasya.
Wow,
dan
Bu Nurul seems like writing so much. The next one, best paper 4 goes to
Best paper ke-4, pengaruh kompetensi, stabilitas keuangan, dan target keuangan terhadap kecurangan laporan keuangan oleh Evi Sari Hills Royal Highness Prince Gusti Pangeran Hadipati Kangjeng Prabu Marta Kusuma Heron Armando Peri Mangsat Satwa dan Kusuma Dewi. Waduh, namanya panjang sekali. Terima kasih. Selamat untuk Evi.
Okay, so for the next 3, there will be prizes, Bu Ati. Okay, best paper 3 will be given 500,000 rupiah. Goes to
Ya, best paper ketiga diberikan kepada Najwa Kiera dan Bu Sri Opti dengan judul pengaruh hedging bias mental accounting dan loss aversion terhadap pengambilan keputusan investasi pada pengguna aplikasi BBT. Selamat kepada Najwa dan Bu Sri Opti.
Okay, the next one is best paper 2 will be given 750,000 rupiah. And the best paper 2 goes to
Best paper kedua diberikan kepada Ivana Bodi Suherman dengan judul Ancaman Darurat Teks Generatif Artificial Intelligence pada Pendidikan Akuntansi. Selamat pada Ivana dan Boni Suherman dari Universitas di
Okay, and the most wanted. Now, best paper 1. The price is quite, okay. Who will get the best paper 1? The drum roll? Ada drum roll-nya? Okay.
Okay, the best paper diberikan pada Hani Nur Anggraeni, Vina Ayu Agus, Nilza Hayati Nufus, Indah Masito Riyandi, Anissa Janah Ledah. Dengan judul Optimization Scorecard pada UMKM untuk pengukuran kinerja yang efektif. Selamat pada Hani dan
10 papers from the national conference. And we're moving to the international ones. International. Okay, best paper for International Conference on Accounting and Fraud Auditing. Best paper 10 goes to
Liana Frisco-Kwan.
Circular economy, how do business school students aware of it? Congratulations. Best paper 9 goes to
Lina Nigel William Rinaldi. The influence to environment, social and long value profitability matter. Dari UPH, selamat Lina.
Okay, next one. Best paper 8 goes to
Sari Anggraini Hani Nurlatifah Sohibul Imam dengan judul The Comparison of Executive Board Political Preference for Training on Syariah and Non-Syariah Share.
Okay, next one. Best paper 7 for the international conference goes to
Sugeng Riyadi Puja dan
Fraud Prevention, exploring the country forensic account effectiveness. Congratulations.
Selamat.
We're moving to the next one. Best paper. Best papers for the second international conference on accounting and fraud auditing goes to
Andin Mirza Pratiwi, Anis Lastiati. Stakeholder and profitability matter to the quality of sustainability report.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next one. Best paper 5.
Ibu. Sri Upika dan Sari Anggraini. Effect of fundamental analysis, inflation rate, and IDR US dollar exchange rate on PEX gold crypto asset price in Indonesia.
Best paper 4 goes to
Andriana
Okay.
Hajanirina Osepin Lisa Angela Mila Austria Reis.
The role of intellectual capital on Indonesian bank financial development, the implication on stock price. Congratulations. Base paper 3 with the prize 750,000 rupiah goes to
Rianti Budi Setiawati Bambang Cahyadi. Harmonisasi Forestering Green Sustainability through Digital Transformation in the Electricity Industry. Congratulations, Rianti Bambang.
Next one, best paper 2 with the prize 1 million rupiah goes to
Denny Hamdani, Devianti Sharif. Corporate Social Responsibility Disclosure in Mining Sector, a Financial Performance Approach. Oh, Ina, Mbak. Okay. Congratulations, Denny.
Okay, and the last one. The best paper won for second international conference on auditing and fraud audit, accounting and fraud auditing, and the prize is 1.250.000 rupiah goes to
Median Willestari dan Monlina. Influence of corporate governance mechanism on the earning quality in public company in Southeast Asia.
Those are the winners of the best paper. Thank you so much, Ibu Ati. Okay, we remind to all participants, do not forget to fill the attendance and survey forms listed on the screen and in the Zoom chat column to get the e-certificate. Silahkan dipindai barcode-nya. Betul. Please scan the barcode and fill in the forms to get the e-certificate. The e-certificate will be sent by the committee maximum 7 days after today's event. Okay, now we are at the end of the panel sessions. Hopefully all the materials from today's speaker can be useful for all of us. I represent the All Committee of International Seminar, Environmental, Social, and Governance, Creating Sustainable Value in Global Business, saying thank you to all the invited guests and speakers, moderators, our co-hosts, and not to forget our sponsor for today's event. Our co-host, Al-Azhar University, Universitas Inaba, IP Bogor, Universitas Atmajaya, Universitas Asafia. And this event is also sponsored by Bank Indonesia. Akuntansi UMKM Trilogi, Ikatan Alumni Universitas Trilogi KAPd Eli Sugeng dan rekan, BPJS Kesehatan, CIMB Niaga, Account Tax, Penerbit Erlangga, Sayur Box, dan juga Wardah. As a master of ceremony today, I'm gladly to say that we are closing this today event and saying thank you to all of you, and we are apologize for all the mistakes both technically and verbally. And see you again in the next international and national conference on accounting and fraud auditing. Good. Thank you so much. Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dibantu beres-beres ya teman-teman.
Ini dipersembahkan oleh BPJS Kesehatan.
Recording stopped.